Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. She stopped suddenly, her breath catching in her throat when she saw him. He was sitting at a table near the railing, looking out at the beach on the other side of the pier. His eyes were hidden behind sunglasses, and the gray in his short hair stood out against his stubbly jaw. He was laughing at something his much younger friend was saying. She hadn't seen him in over 10 years, except in newspapers and online. Many times since they parted, she had searched for him, typing in his name and hitting enter. It didn't take long for his face to appear, and each time it stirred feelings she knew were unhealthy to keep chasing. But like a moth drawn to a light, she would look for him again, knowing it wasn't good for her, but unable to stop until her curiosity was satisfied. This cycle repeated every few months, at least twice a year since he left her. Her last search had been a little over 10 months ago, brought on by a news story she had seen that morning. For the first time, she had managed to break free from her obsessive habit. She had felt proud, then strong, for not punishing herself any further. In the weeks that followed, she believed she was finally moving on and getting better. But now, seeing him again, looking both different and the same, the old feelings surged back, strong and relentless. Sadness, pain, guilt, regret, shame, longing. She wanted him back in her life as his presence awoke old hopes and memories she had tried to forget, even after all these years. "There you are," her best friend said, stepping onto the balcony behind her. She stopped when she saw him too. "Oh!" She quickly turned away, not wanting him to notice her staring. The man who had influenced her life in such a deep way, the man she could not forget. "Let's get away from here," her friend whispered, taking her hand and leading her away. 19 years earlier. "The next station is Camberley, where this train terminates," the automated voice said. Anderson John A.J. Smith continued to stare out the window at the empty fields and the few houses scattered around. The highway ran next to the tracks but was now on the opposite side after the train crossed a bridge. A.J. had taken this train before, one of several that ran from the nearby suburban station to the city. But this time, going the other way, he hadn't stopped at that station like many other passengers. He recognized a few people getting off, nodding to them and ignoring the curious looks from others when he didn't leave the train with them. That station was now more than an hour and several stops behind him. It was no longer his stop. It would never be his stop again. The train was almost empty as it slowed down, getting closer to its final stop. He shifted in his seat, looking out the window at the small town ahead. He had never been this far before. All he knew about Camberley was that it had a university, but he couldn't remember its name. He still had his wallet, but he lost his phone, laptop, and keys to his car and home. He closed his eyes, fighting back tears and feeling a heavy weight in his chest as the reality sank in. He didn't have a home anymore. Since he planned to stay away, he figured he didn't have a car anymore either. "The train is now arriving at Camberley. This train will terminate here," a male voice announced. "Please remember to take all your things with you when you leave the train." AJ had no other belongings except for the clothes he wore and the shoes on his feet. A few hours earlier, he would have looked at his watch for the time, but he had accidentally left it in the trash in the train's restroom almost as soon as he boarded. He stepped out of the station, and the cold wind hit him, making him shiver. He sniffed, pushing back the tears. That was when he noticed the sign for the Camberley Mills shopping center and the many stores there, one of which stood out. He put his hands in his pockets and started to walk. 2 hours later, he was trudging along the road about a mile away from the shopping center, carrying a reusable bag with a few bottles inside. The shop attendant had seen his eyes and wouldn't sell him anymore. "Whatever you're trying to escape, man," the bearded man said. "That isn't the way." "I didn't ask for your opinion," AJ replied. He had already bought the bottles, but when he tried to get more, the man shook his head, pointing to a sign indicating he could refuse service. "You'll have to be okay with what you already have," the man said. "I'm not driving," AJ insisted. "I don't care." AJ left the bottles on the counter and stepped outside. Across the road from the shopping center, He noticed a sign that said, "Bed and Breakfast." The writing above was too fancy for him to read from where he stood, but he could see the green vacancies sign underneath. He crossed the road and walked up the gravel driveway. "Millie and Milton's," he read on the sign, seeing the two M's connected. It had just started to drizzle, and he was cold. He thought about finding shelter and knew he didn't want to spend his last hours wet and shivering outside in the rain. He was sniffling by the time he pushed open the doors to the nice 3-story building at the end of the gravel driveway, ringing the small entry bell. He walked into the small reception area and went to the wooden counter. A thin woman in her middle years came out from behind a door, squinting as she wiped her glasses. "Hello?" Her eyes moved to him as if she had just woken up. "Good evening. How can I assist you?" "I would like a room." There was a vacancy sign outside, AJ said after a brief pause. "Oh, I'm sorry, but we need to take that down," the woman replied, looking a bit flustered. AJ frowned. "No rooms available?" He looked around, noticing the faded curtains and a light layer of dust on the counter. "No," she answered. "We're empty, but I don't think you'd want to stay here." He stayed quiet, waiting for more information. "We were hit by lightning last month. It caused many problems." She took a deep breath. "Most rooms don't have electricity and the outlets aren't working. You wouldn't be able to charge your phone or laptop." "I don't have a phone," AJ said with a shrug, "or a laptop." The woman narrowed her eyes as she looked at him. "Is everything all right, mister?" "Smith," he responded. "John Smith." She gave him a doubtful glance, so he showed her his driver's license. "I still want a room," he said, watching her read his name. After a few moments, she shrugged. "Give me a minute." She went back through the door, leaving AJ alone to take in his surroundings again. Even though they were old, the furnishings were well kept and neatly placed. A plaque with the double M logo hung prominently on the wall behind the counter. Below it was a black and white photo of a smiling couple standing together in front of the building. With little interest, he leaned forward to read the caption. "Milton and Millicent Thompson, 2 hearts, 1 soul." Suddenly, he felt weak and had to lean against the counter, closing his eyes. Emotions he had kept hidden for too long threatened to break free, and he fought to hold them in. He managed to tame the wave of feeling just as the woman returned with a large, old-fashioned hotel register book. A small cloud of dust rose when she set it on the counter. She opened it to a place near the middle, where a bookmark lay. "The computer was broken," she explained. He noticed that the last entry was almost 6 years earlier as she carefully wrote down his details from the driver's license, leaving out the last name. She took out a key with a large wooden holder that had the number 102 and the double M logo on it. "The lights worked, but it hasn't been cleaned since the incident." AJ didn't mind. "How much?" he asked. The woman bit her lip, looking unsure. AJ thought, without much interest, that she was actually quite a nice-looking woman. "How does 50 sound? For one night?" "Yes." He took out his wallet, counted out 200, and placed the money on the counter. After spending on the vodka, he had less than half of what he had taken out that afternoon after leaving the coffee shop, a heavy feeling weighing down on him. He had fallen to his knees in the alley a block away, feeling unwell, and when he stood up to look back, he saw. "Hey," a woman said, looking worried. "Are you okay?" AJ snapped back to reality and grabbed the key from the counter. "No," he said with frustration. "I'm not okay." The hallway was dark, but he found room 102 easily. He opened the door and stepped inside with his bag. He took a drink from one of the bottles and sat on the bed, feeling the warmth of the liquid going down his throat. He gasped as it hit him too hard, and the rush of blood made his head throb, not used to such strong alcohol. Alone in that dark room with the sun hidden and rain hitting the windows, miles away from the disaster in his life, AJ let go of his struggles and allowed himself to feel. He cried, and drank, and cried. It was the loud knocking on the door, adding to the throb in his head, that woke him the first time. "Mr. Smith!" a woman's voice shouted. "Mr. John Smith, open up! Wake up and open the door!" He felt lost and in pain, but he tried to respond to the voice. He really did. He attempted to get up and open the door, but the pain in his head and the dizziness made it hard. Then he heard the lock being opened with force, a sharp pain shooting through his head, and he would have protested if he could. Suddenly the room was filled with bright light that hurt even through his closed eyes. He tried to express his discomfort, but it came out as a weak sound. Then everything went dark again. When he woke up again, his head still ached, but he could open his eyes without too much trouble from the light. He lay on his side and, in a moment of confusion, tried to understand why he was in a strange bed, staring at unfamiliar wallpaper. Memories flooded back the coffee shop, the letter, the rings, everything falling apart. The weight in his chest grew stronger, just as it had since he entered the coffee shop. He gasped, trying to breathe again. He understood in a logical way that there was no heavy feeling in his chest, that nothing was blocking his breathing, and that the pain in his body was just in his mind. Still, it felt real. The pain was real. As real as everything that had happened to him. As real as the tears streaming down his face that he couldn't stop. As real as the voice behind him saying, "Oh no, you're awake." When he tried to turn toward the voice, a sharp pain shot through his head and he groaned, closing his eyes to keep himself from crying out. He heard someone getting out of a chair, hurried footsteps, a door opening, and then, "Dad! Mom! Belly! He's awake! Come quick! He just woke up!" He winced again as he tried to turn and sit up against the headboard. The boy's loud voice did not help the pounding in his head. Plus, he felt weak. He had never thought sitting up could be so hard. He looked up just in time to see 3 adults enter the room while the teenager who had been shouting was standing by the door, peeking in. One of the adults was the woman who had checked him into the bed and breakfast. The other 2 were new to him, like the boy. The boy looked about 14 and was dressed in jeans and a long-sleeved shirt. He seemed to be awkwardly growing up, with a face that resembled his mother's. The man was tall and had a beard, matching the woman's age. It was easy to see where the boy got his hair color and some features. He looked serious as he walked in, glancing at AJ with a mix of worry and questioning. The third adult was a younger woman, of average height and fuller figure with auburn hair. She shot him a look full of anger. "Thank you, Tyler," the man said to the boy, who seemed to want to stay and listen. "You can go now." Tyler opened his mouth to say something, but his father's look made him just nod and leave, turning back to shoot one last curious yet annoyed glance at AJ before closing the door behind him. AJ felt a bit sorry for Tyler. If he were in the boy's position, having to spend time looking after a stranger, he would want to know what was happening too. "Anderson John Smith." The man spoke after a long moment of silence. "Is that your name?" AJ wished it weren't. If it wasn't, then it would be someone else whose life had turned upside down, someone else with that name on all those papers. "Yes." "You're lying," the younger woman said, glaring at him, "because I think your name is Selfish Coward." "Belly," the older woman warned, but when she turned back to AJ, her expression wasn't friendly either. "Here," the man said, offering AJ a small glass of water. "Drink up." AJ realized how thirsty he was when he saw the glass. He drank it all in one go and looked up hopefully for more. "That's enough for now." The man took the glass back. "We don't want you to feel unwell." "You can say that again," the younger woman said quietly. "My name is Fred Linden," the man continued after a moment of silence. He nodded toward the blonde. "This is my wife, Deborah, and our niece, Belinda Thompson." "It's nice to—" AJ started to say, then stopped, feeling the oddness of the situation. He took a deep breath. "I'm sorry we're meeting like this," Belinda or Belly scoffed. "So am I," Fred stated. "Do you know where you are, mister?" "Smith?" "Camberley," Fred nodded. "And where in Camberley?" "Milton and Millie's." "Close enough." Fred nodded again. "I assume your head still hurts?" "Yes." "That's because you haven't eaten anything in 3 days, but you drank a lot." He couldn't deny that. "Yes." "So," Fred said, "we're going to get you some food, and then we can talk." "What's there to talk about?" Belly snapped. "He's going to pay for the room. He's going to pay for his clothes. And if I had my way, he'll pay for the food too. Then he's leaving." She glared at him. "Belly," Fred said firmly, "that's enough." "No, it's not enough." Belly replied, defiantly shifting her glare to Fred. "I'm not a kid anymore, Uncle Fred. We have enough problems without dealing with someone like him." Enough, Belly, Deborah said in a strong tone. Belly turned back to AJ, hands clenched, but went quiet. Deborah looked at AJ. We're going to get you some food, and you'll eat, and you will drink only water. There was no room for discussion. AJ nodded. Good, Deborah said, looking at her niece. Let's go, Belly. Belly looked like she wanted to continue, but she followed her aunt out the door. What did she mean about cleaning the room? AJ asked Fred. You made quite a mess in 102, Mr. Smith. We had to move you to 103, and I had to tidy up and buy you the pajamas you're wearing now. Fred's expression turned serious. Luckily for you, you didn't drink too much. AJ looked down at his hands. Yeah, he said softly. I never was much of a drinker. You weren't planning on leaving that room, were you? I wasn't planning anything, AJ replied quietly. I just wanted it all to stop. What? Fred asked, even though he knew the answer. What did you want to stop? Tears filled AJ's eyes. The pain. I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted to forget everything. He looked up at Fred. I'm sorry for everything I've put you through. I threw away the rest of the bottles. Fred said after a moment. AJ took a deep breath and nodded, looking into Fred's eyes. That's okay. Fred studied him in silence and then left. He met Deborah in the hallway holding a tray. It had a bowl of soup and a big bottle of water. How is he? She asked softly after he kissed her forehead. You're right. He's very sad, Fred said. His situation must have been hard on him. Wife? Deborah looked at him with interest. Did he tell you he had a wife? He didn't need to, Fred said, taking the tray from her. On his left hand, there used to be a ring. So, Fred Linden started, let me tell you about my last few days. AJ didn't say anything, and Fred took that as agreement, though he didn't really need it. 2 nights ago, I was getting into bed when my wife, Fred noticed AJ tense at the word, told me that a man in a very nice coat and suit walked into this B&B carrying only a bag from Bacchus. He paused and added, We took down the vacancy sign, by the way. AJ nodded. She said she told him there was a lightning strike on the building and that none of the sockets worked to charge his phone. But, Fred took a sip of his drink. He didn't seem to care. He didn't even have a phone. You see, Fred caught himself. Deborah is a kind person. He paused again as AJ reacted to the word. And since it was raining and you looked a bit lost, and you didn't have a car, she let you stay the night. But then you gave her $200, enough for 4 days, and went to room 102. Fred took another sip and pointed to the glass of water in front of AJ. You should drink that. AJ took a long sip and set the glass down. Anyway, Fred continued, I didn't think much of it and I went to sleep. The next morning, I went about my day and later met my friend Terry for our weekly pool game. He works at the Bacchus in the shopping center. He told me he sold 4 big bottles of vodka to a man in a very nice coat and suit. AJ stayed quiet. And get this, Fred said. The man tried to buy 2 more bottles. Terry has a brother named Rob. They like to go out drinking a lot. One day, Rob didn't stop drinking when he should have because he was feeling low after losing someone important. He ended up in serious trouble. So when Terry saw the man in the nice suit come back, he refused to sell to him. He said the man looked empty inside. It made me wonder if this was the man that my wife, Deborah, mentioned looked lost. So when I got home, I asked Deborah if the man in the nice suit had come out of room 102. She said no. I went to sleep and woke up the next morning thinking about the man in the nice suit with 4 bottles of vodka in room 102 at Millie's. I told Deborah we should check it out, and Belly was there, so I told her too. Fred took another sip from his can. Then we opened the door, and it smelled awful. There he was, lying on the floor. I was there early in the morning helping a stranger I didn't know, trying to clean him up because he smelled so bad. He didn't wake up, and I worried he might not be okay. I needed to get an IV kit to help him. Now here he was, sitting across from me, looking like he was about to give up again. We were on the Bedan breakfast's patio. After a delicious soup, he had fallen asleep again, and when he woke up, the pounding headache had mostly faded away. He realized he could stand without pain, and any dizziness only lasted a moment. He waited for that feeling to go away before heading to the bathroom. It took a long time to empty his bladder. After that, he noticed a scab on his wrist and a post-it note on the mirror above the sink. It said, "Use me," with an arrow pointing to a new toothbrush. Fred, or Deborah, certainly not Belly, had kindly left toothpaste, too. When he came out, Fred was waiting in the room. "Come on, the fresh air will help you," he said. He had nothing better to do. The night air felt warm for the time of year, and he was comfortable in the sweatshirt and pajama bottoms they provided. Fred had pointed to a pair of plastic shoes by the door, and he put them on to follow Fred outside. "So," Fred said as he settled back into his chair after a moment of silence, "why Camberley?" AJ looked up, surprised. "What do you mean? What made you think Camberley was a place to find help?" AJ shook his head. "I just took the first train I saw at the downtown station and rode it to the last stop. I didn't care where it went. I just wanted to escape." "I see," Fred replied, considering for a moment. "Why don't you tell me what happened? How did you end up here in Camberley? No phone, no car, and really no hope. And really, just the clothes on your back and a wallet missing a lot of cards." AJ stared at Fred, feeling the heavy worry in his chest that he had felt since waking up, since the coffee shop. "I'm really thankful to you and your family for being so kind and taking care of me. I'll definitely pay for the cleaning. And I'm really sorry for causing all this trouble," AJ finally said. "But I don't know you." "I'm Frederick Linden, Chief of the Camberley-Sutton County Fire Department," he replied. "Nice to meet you, sir," AJ said, "but just knowing your name doesn't mean I know you." Fred chuckled lightly. "Well, I've seen you in a tough moment, so I know more about you than I wanted to. It seems like your choice to drink didn't help things, and I assume it has to do with your wife." AJ froze. Fred pointed to AJ's left hand and the lighter skin on one finger. "She was unfaithful, wasn't she?" AJ started to shake. He closed his eyes as the heavy feelings in his chest seemed to grow. His mind replayed the hurtful moments, the coffee shop, the letter handed to him, those neatly typed words, the rings, her, and another man. He remembered the pitying looks as he struggled to keep himself together while everything fell apart around him. Sitting across from someone he had just met, AJ found himself covering his mouth to hold back the emotion. "Let it out, son," Fred said gently. "It's better to express it than keep it inside." AJ let it out. Tears and quiet cries came. He was shocked at how much pain was still there after the last 2 days. Even when he thought he was done, more feelings came. Fred sat patiently through it all. When AJ finally stopped, he slumped in his seat, looking worn out. It was like a heavy weight was pressing down on him, and he felt drained from sharing his story. Fred felt anger welling up inside him for the first time in many years. He looked at AJ, his hands curled into fists, wanting to hit something or someone. He stayed quiet until the anger faded, which took longer than he expected. Then he leaned forward and placed a hand on AJ's. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Smith." AJ stayed quiet, staring down at his trembling hands. "I almost wish I hadn't asked. I'm amazed you're still here, that you made it this far. You're a strong man, Mr. Smith." AJ looked up then. "Yes, you are," Fred insisted. "I promise you." Then he took out his phone. "But first you should call your mom. Let her know you're okay. I'm sure she's worried. Then you should tell her what happened." "But—" "Make the call, Mr. Smith," Fred said, "and take your time." AJ looked at him thoughtfully for a moment before taking the offered phone. "Thank you, Chief. You can call me AJ, John. Then I'll call you Fred. Now make that call." AJ made the call. Rachel Smith still had tears in her eyes when the phone rang again. They dried up immediately when she saw the name on the screen. She thought about ignoring the call, but knew she would end up doing that all night. So she tapped the green button and put the call on speaker. Then she remained silent. "Hello, Rachel?" a woman's voice said. "Hello? Are you there?" She had last heard that voice earlier that morning and had happily answered then, telling the caller she missed her. The woman had quietly asked if she had heard from her son. She hadn't. Not yet. Rachel was concerned, but not overly so. AJ was an adult, and sometimes they lost track of time. But a few hours later, a strange number had called her. Out of curiosity, she had answered. Now she had heard from her son. The mix of emotions since that brief talk left her feeling overwhelmed. "Hello?" the woman on the other side repeated. "Rachel, are you there?" "Yes," Rachel said. There was a pause, then the woman asked, "Have you heard from—" "Listen to me carefully," Rachel interrupted. "Don't ever call me again. Don't talk to me again. I don't want to see you again. Do you understand?" The woman was silent for a long moment, then said, "I never meant for this to happen. I was going to tell you when—" "I'm going to hang up now," Rachel said. "Just tell me he's safe." Rachel was surprised at how much anger she felt toward another person. "I wish you well," Rachel said, and hung up. The pain was still there when he woke the next morning, but the heaviness in his chest was lighter. He went to the bathroom to brush his teeth and took a lukewarm shower. Then he put on his freshly cleaned suit, coat, and shoes delivered while he was talking the night before with Fred, and then with his mother at her new teaching job in Qatar, before stepping out of room 103. Deborah was just walking in as he reached the main entrance. "John," she said, dropping a box of cleaning supplies she was carrying. To his surprise, she hugged him tightly. "I'm so sorry." Fred had said he would tell her, but he still felt a rush of embarrassment as she gently held his face. "Be strong, okay?" she said softly. "It will get better, I promise." "Thank you," he said, feeling the weight in his chest lighten further. She smiled at him and stepped back to pull a foil packet from the bag on her shoulder. "Here," she said. "This place is supposed to be a bed and breakfast. It's a Philly cheesesteak, not the healthiest breakfast, but you haven't eaten this morning in what, 3 days?" AJ looked at her, surprised. She placed her hands on her hips and stared at him. "Are you saying you don't like my cooking? Trying to make me upset?" It felt strange, but he found himself smiling. "No, ma'am, thank you." "Good answer," she said with a laugh. She bent down to grab the box. "Let me help." AJ began. "No," she said. "I need the exercise." She looked him over. "Besides, where are you going all dressed up?" "To the shopping center." She frowned. "For what?" "I'm not getting drinks, I promise." He guessed her real concern. "Just some essentials." "I can drive you." "No," he replied. "I need the exercise." She laughed. "Touché." For the next 30 minutes, he walked around the grounds, enjoying the sandwich. After the first bite, he paused, wondering if he had ever tasted anything so good. He noticed a 2-story cottage at the back and a small red car parked in front. He made a mental note of it but focused on the grand Georgian building, noting the details on the small plaque near the basement stairs before heading down the driveway toward the shopping center. As he walked, Belly drove by, giving him a stern look and waving her hands when their eyes met. An hour later, he walked out of the charity store wearing a plaid shirt and jeans. He had traded in his dress shoes for new sports socks and a slightly scuffed pair of work boots. In exchange for his Esteban suit, he got 2 more shirts, another pair of jeans, and 2 packs of affordable boxers and undershirts. His Pierre Germain coat earned him a nice leather jacket and a windbreaker. He even gave up his wallet and received a brand new, simple baseball cap from the cheerful store manager. He asked the manager if Camberley had a public library and how he could reach it without a car. The manager confirmed there was a library and mentioned that the 17 bus could take him there from the shopping center's 3rd entrance. AJ asked if he could find the information he needed there. The manager shrugged, unsure. Next, he asked to leave his bag with his new clothes in the store for later. The manager agreed. He walked to the 3rd entrance, found the bus stop going in the right direction, and settled in to wait. 23 minutes later, the bus came, and he boarded, paid his fare, and found a seat. 38 minutes later, he stepped off the bus. After asking a woman in jogging clothes for directions, he walked the last few hundred yards to the Camberley-Sutton County Public Library. Finding the plans for the building that would become Millie and Milton's bed and breakfast took over an hour of searching through old government records in the microfiche room. The information on a plaque in the basement about the architect, builder, and year helped him locate the plans that had been filed with the municipal government more than 90 years ago. He paid to make copies and spent another hour and a half studying them, taking notes and making calculations. Then he went online for more research and recalculated. He made a list. He fought the urge to check his email, knowing he wouldn't want to see what was there. This reminded him of the heaviness he felt inside. It was well past noon by the time he was ready to go back to the bed and breakfast. He gathered his papers and left the library. He stopped briefly at the central Camberley branch of his bank just a block away and completed 2 transactions, both disappointing to the bank employee he spoke with. He then walked back to the bus stop. He had just turned the corner when he saw the bus pulling away. The digital sign showed that the next number 17 bus would arrive in 44 minutes. For now, AJ decided to think of his annoyance as a good thing. Being upset about missing a bus was certainly better than feeling deep pain. As he looked away from the display, deciding to find somewhere to sit and wait, he noticed the sandwich shop and the special advertised on a sign by the door. He felt a moment of tension. However, he thought he couldn't avoid coffee and sandwich shops forever, especially since he was hungry, and $15 for a fancy sub and fries was a great deal. As soon as he walked into the Flavor Bomb, he recognized it as a popular spot for students. The colorful designs on the walls and the long tables with benches showed it was a lively and relaxed place. The line of sockets and USB ports for charging devices was another clear sign. The young woman behind the counter smiled at him. "Just take a seat. Any seat. I'll be right with you." Since it was a weekday, less than a quarter of the seats were taken. A group of 5 was focused on their laptops, occasionally pointing and talking before going silent again. He picked a seat near the door so he could see the number 17 bus when it arrived. The woman soon came over with a menu and a glass of water. AJ thanked her and pointed at the sign on the wall about the special offer. She smiled politely and went back to the counter to take his order. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to forget the heavy feelings that lingered in his mind. They aren't real, he reminded himself, recalling the words from a letter carefully written for him to read. Even though those moments had happened, they were never quite what he thought they were. Suddenly, a woman's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Why doesn't this work?" He opened his eyes and saw his hands were clenched tightly. He took a deep breath and relaxed them. "I don't know," a man's voice echoed, sharing the same frustration. "Forget it." "Maybe if we try," said another girl. AJ noticed the group gathered around her computer, with 2 of them leaning in to watch as she typed. One student glanced his way. She was quite pretty, her glasses a bit unusual with her casual outfit. He quickly looked away, aware that a quick glance could be misunderstood. "Come on," a girl exclaimed when another try failed. The server brought his food and he handed her a $20 bill. She smiled wider when he told her to keep the change. Throughout the room, frustrated cries rang out. One loud shout made him turn to look, and once again he caught the girl's gaze. He turned back to his food, deciding to ignore the noisy group. When he glanced at the clock above the counter bus, 17 was due in 11 minutes. He saw her looking at him again, her expression curious. He sighed quietly as she stood up and walked towards him. "Stop staring," she said. He kept his face neutral as he looked up. She was indeed very beautiful. "How am I being weird?" He guessed she was about 20. "The way you've been looking at me," she said firmly. "That's really strange." He sighed. "I wasn't just looking at you." She snorted, clearly not believing him, her glare strong. "I was looking at all of you," he clarified, ignoring her disbelief. "You're pretty hard to miss. You guys aren't exactly quiet." She crossed her arms, showing her annoyance. "You've got some nerve, coming to our spot and telling us to be quiet." AJ raised an eyebrow. "I didn't say a thing." Her eyes shifted slightly, and he could tell she was looking for another way to argue. "It's okay," he said, wanting to end the conversation, any conversation. "I'm leaving now anyway," she continued to glare. "It must be nice not knowing what a deadline is." "If only you knew," AJ thought. But instead he said, "That's because I start my projects on time." She didn't like that. He noticed her expression change, her nostrils flaring, eyes narrowing. "So you're not just weird. You're also quite full of yourself." AJ felt upset with himself. Poking at the angry young woman in front of him was unkind. "I'm sorry," he said, nodding his head. She had a point. He could have been nicer. I'm leaving now. She kept staring at him as he got up and walked out of the sandwich shop. The clock showed he had 7 minutes before bus number 17 would arrive just across the street. He paused to think about the time, his choices, the clothes he left at the charity shop, and the unhappy students struggling with their assignment. The girl was frustrated, and he had just added to her troubles. Getting on the bus meant he would spend the next 40 minutes alone with his thoughts and a heavy feeling in his chest. He sighed and went back into the sandwich shop. The girl was huddled with another team member, looking worried when she saw him return. Her expression changed to one of concern as he approached the group. "Can I see what you're working on?" he asked. They all looked at him. He pointed at their screens. "It's Proxim, right? Process simulator?" Yes," answered one of the guys, looking puzzled. "Can I take a look or not?" AJ asked. Within 3 minutes, he spotted the mistakes. And in another 23 minutes, he found the first solution with the data they needed. He took his time to explain each step as he fixed their model and set the correct options. Then he pressed the button to run the simulation. "Oh, wow!" Leanne exclaimed as the animation began and numbers started showing up. "Awesome," said her boyfriend, Roland. The girl, Amaya, just watched him in surprise. The assignment had 4 parts, each needing to connect with the next one, and the team of 3 girls and 2 boys had just 26 hours to finish. With other assignments and a quiz coming up, they were feeling the stress. 2 hours later, after watching 3 buses come and go, AJ stood back while Amaya entered the last detail into her computer. She glanced at her nervous teammates, then threw him a questioning look. He responded with a casual shrug. After making some comments, he let Rolly work on the second part while the others figured things out. Amaya took a deep breath and clicked the button. They all jumped in excitement as the animation started and the numbers appeared. They shouted and cheered when the message "Simulation complete" appeared on the screen. "You are amazing!" Joran shouted happily as he rushed out, ready to join his rugby team. "Thank you, John," Talana said quietly, putting on her jacket. She smiled at him, making him feel light inside. "I really appreciate it." She was lovely. Rolly gave him a high five and stepped back so Leanne could show her thanks. That left him alone with Amaya, who was watching him closely. "Well, that was interesting," she finally said. "What do you mean?" Rolly happily standing by while Leanne thanked someone else. AJ shrugged and stayed silent. "Admit it," Amaya said. "You came back just to make me feel bad." She scrunched her nose. AJ smiled. "And to show off a bit. Don't forget that." She laughed. "We'll see about the show-off part. You might still be that way, but you're definitely not weird." Surprised by his own laughter, he said, "Thanks, I think." Amaya smiled wider. "Besides, Rolly probably thinks I'm too old to be a problem." "Really?" Amaya narrowed her eyes. "How young do you think we are?" 20, he thought. 19, he said out loud. "This is a master's course. Leanne is 21 and I turn 23 next month," she said firmly. "How old are you? It's okay to ask since you're a guy." AJ raised an eyebrow. 31. "That's not too old for, Amaya lost her train of thought and finished awkwardly. "For Leanne." AJ said, trying to fill the silence. "I need to wait for my bus." "You don't have a car?" "I used to," AJ said, memories flashing back and making him feel down. "But it's not here now." "Well, I do," Amaya said quickly. "I can take you wherever you need to go." "Wherever? What if I'm going far away?" "Then we'll have an adventure," Amaya said, stepping closer to him. "Really, it's the least I can do after your help, and to make up for calling you weird." "But not for calling me annoying," he joked. Amaya rolled her eyes. "Now you're being annoying again." "True," he chuckled. Then he said, "I'm going to Camberley Mills." "That's just 10 minutes away," Amaya pointed out. "Let me take you." "Please," AJ said. "All right, then." Behind Amaya, the server smiled and gave him a thumbs up. "What's happening?" he thought. "So you live here?" Amaya asked as she parked in front of Hammer Jack, looking confused. "In the shopping center?" AJ teased. "No." She rolled her eyes. "No, in Camberley." Looking at the hardware store, he replied, I'm staying here, for now at least. Where's home? She asked after a moment. The weight in his chest grew heavier, and he needed a moment to gather his thoughts. I'm going through a change right now. She looked at him, and he could see she understood his pain through her caring eyes. Can you share more about it? He shook his head. No. That seemed to hurt her, but he knew it was honest. She took a deep breath. Are you married? The thought weighed on him again. No, he replied, remembering. I never was, he thought. She kept looking at him. Do you have a girlfriend, fiancé, or boyfriend? He let out a small laugh. No, and no. Is your name really John Smith? Yes. Amaya took another deep breath. Can I have your number or email? I don't have a phone and I can't access my email anymore, he explained. As I said, I'm going through a change. Then how can I reach you? Amaya asked. Because I really like you, and I want to see you again. AJ didn't say anything. And no, I'm not too young for you. I'm an adult, she said, and you're not too old for me. I don't think, AJ started. Unless it's something else, she interrupted, looking at herself, like you don't see me as someone you want to be with. You're truly beautiful, Amaya, AJ reassured her. Don't doubt that, especially because of me. She asked him to wait in front of the sandwich shop while she went to the parking lot behind the building to get her car. During those 4 minutes, she focused on cleaning her little white car, tossing paper cups, takeout boxes, and wrappers into a shopping bag before running to toss it in the shop's dumpster. Then she hurried back, sprayed some air freshener, and rolled down the windows. She also quickly applied some lip balm, shook out her hair, popped some Tic Tacs in her mouth, and switched from glasses to contacts. He didn't know that he had gone to the restroom and seen everything through the window. He felt a bit guilty, even though it had been by chance. But watching a lovely young woman run around to look her best for him, that lifted some of the weight in his heart. He rushed back out to meet her as she drove to the front, returning her smile as he got into the passenger seat. He let her talk as she drove, chuckling when she told him how her father was so happy when she was born that he misspelled Amelia on the birth certificate. Her mother liked the name Amaya and decided to keep it. Now let me give you my number and email, she said, giving him a serious look. And I want you to promise me you'll use them. He saw no reason to say no, so he replied, I promise. She wrote them down on a piece of paper under her name, Amaya Paolini. After handing it to him, she smiled broadly. I'll be waiting for your call, she said as he stepped out of her car. You don't have to play it cool. It wasn't the largest Hammerjack store he had ever visited, but it was decent. Instead of looking for what he needed on his own, he called a store worker and showed him the list he had made at the library. In less than 30 minutes, the items were being placed at the checkout. AJ added a basic smartphone and a prepaid SIM card with talk time and data already included, feeling a new sense of direction. I need this delivered, he told the cashier. It'll cost extra, the man replied, eyeing the pile of items as he started the delivery order on his screen. Where to? AJ remembered the address. Millie and Milton's Bed and Breakfast, 1457 Devonshire Boulevard. He paused when he noticed the cashier wasn't typing and was just staring at him with a puzzled look. Is something wrong? The man, named Leonard according to his tag, looked back at the items, smiled, and said, No, it's fine. Just a moment. He pressed a button on his collar microphone and spoke, and his voice echoed over the store's announcement system. Manager needed at checkout 12, please. Leonard then looked up. Please hold on, sir. An older man with glasses and a polo shirt that said Jason and Manager on it appeared within a minute. What's going on, Leo? Jason asked, politely nodding at AJ. This customer, Leo pointed, is buying these items. He indicated his screen and the line of products at the counter. And he wants them delivered to Don and Pamela's place. Oh. Jason nodded, looking at the items. He then turned his attention to AJ, evaluating him. Can you come to my office, Mr. Smith, AJ replied. Is there an issue? Jason smiled. No, Mr. Smith, I don't think so. Please have a seat, Mr. Smith. Jason said a moment later in his office, gesturing toward the chair in front of his desk as he walked around. AJ noticed the slightly messy stack of papers and 3 screens, 2 displaying data, and the larger one showing several security camera feeds on the desk as he sat down. Jason quickly scanned his screens before focusing on AJ. "So how do you know Don and Pam?" "I've never met them," AJ said. "So you know Belly?" "We've met," AJ acknowledged, shrugging slightly. "But I don't really know her." He thought back to the unkind gesture she had made while driving past in her small red car. "And I'm pretty sure she doesn't like me." Jason frowned. "Now I'm confused. What's happening here?" AJ gave him a curious look. "Do you often ask your customers these questions?" "I'm Jason Frankel. Pamela Thompson, who used to be Pamela Hayes, is my wife's sister, and Don Thompson is one of my best friends," Jason explained. "And as far as I'm concerned, Belly is like a daughter to me." "I understand," AJ replied. "So let me ask again." Jason leaned in, looking serious. "Who are you, and what's happening here?" AJ felt there was no reason to hide the truth. "I'm just a visitor." "A visitor? But—" AJ explained that he had seen the vacancy sign as it began to rain, and Deborah had kindly let him stay even though the power was out. "Deborah is Don's cousin," Jason informed him. AJ nodded, remembering that Fred had already told him this. Without going into detail, he shared that Fred mentioned the plumbing company Don Thompson had hired to fix the basement pipes and how they had accidentally damaged the grounding system. Less than a week later, lightning struck the building. Don was inside and was thrown across the room by the impact, hitting his head against the wall. The few guests at the bed and breakfast understandably left that night, shaken but unharmed. Fred, as the fire chief, quickly arranged for the grounding to be fixed and for the building to be safe again. However, many electrical items and computers were ruined, with only the lights in rooms 102 and 103 escaping damage. Even weeks after emergency surgery to relieve pressure on his brain, Don remained in a coma. Pam stayed by his side, and Belinda returned to Camberley, leaving her job and studies to support her family. Adding to their troubles, the insurance company denied their claim for repairs, citing the damaged grounding and the plumbing company's expired certification. With their savings tied up in the property, the Thompsons faced an impossible choice: pay for repairs to their old house or for Don's hospital bills and care if he woke up. There was no real choice, and many friends and family could not help financially. The little money Benjamin Thompson, Belly's brother, sent each week was going toward Don's rehabilitation and care. So Deborah was helping to clean up the property after Pam, Ben, and Belly decided to sell the bed and breakfast. That was when AJ had shown up, trying to escape his own troubles. Fred hadn't mentioned the Thompsons' issues to make AJ feel guilty about room 102, but when AJ asked about the lightning strike and the grounding system, Fred was willing to talk. AJ felt regret and began to understand Belly's frustration. His mind started to work, thinking about a problem that needed a solution. He knew right away that he had, by chance, discovered something that could help ease the burden in his heart, even if it didn't help the Thompsons. Drinking had not made things better, to say the least. Talking to Fred had provided some relief, but doing too much of that felt like picking at an old injury, which could make things worse. What he really needed was something to do, something to keep his mind busy so he wouldn't be alone with his thoughts. That would help much more. When Fred left, AJ returned to room 103. He took out the slip of paper in his wallet that he should have thrown away, even if just for his own pride. He regretted not dealing with it sooner as he sorted through cards and pictures from his past life. Now he was grateful he hadn't tossed it, as he found a way to use it that could be beneficial for him. Jason looked at him with doubt. "Does Fred know what you're up to?" "No." "Are you trained for this?" Jason asked. "Yes," AJ replied, showing Jason proof from his wallet. Jason examined it closely and could tell it was real. "You don't look like it." AJ remained quiet. He had heard that before. "So you're just going to do this?" Jason asked again. "For free?" "Yes." "Why would you do that?" The weight of his answer settled in. "It's personal." Jason watched him closely, trying to understand if he was being honest. "Okay then," Jason said. "Show me your plan. How do you plan to do this?" By yourself? He raised a hand when AJ opened his mouth to respond. No matter your certification, I've worked in construction long enough to know when someone isn't upfront. After what Don and Pam have gone through because of poor work, I need to be sure you know what you're doing. That made sense to AJ, so he shared his plans. He took out the blueprints he had copied at the library and the notes he had prepared, including what he had observed during his visit to the building that morning. Jason's expression softened when he saw the blueprints, and by the time AJ finished, he appeared more relaxed and thoughtful. Then, he nodded to himself. He typed something on his computer, and the items AJ had planned to buy appeared on the screen. He highlighted 3 items. We have older stock you can use instead of these. He marked 2 others. These are returns that are still in great shape. The damage is just cosmetic. Then he pointed out 2 more items. We can offer you the older versions of these. They will work fine, and you'll pay half the price of the newer ones you have here. He leaned back. Instead of buying these tools, I can lend them to you from our workshop. AJ realized that his material costs had been nearly cut in half. While he didn't really want to talk about it, he knew that saying anything other than thanks would just lead to more questions. So he said, "Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it." Jason smiled and pointed to his name tag. "You can call me Jason. And no, Mr. Smith, I should be the one thanking you. I'll even drive these things over to you tonight in my truck so you won't have to pay for delivery." The man had just saved him some money, and he wasn't finished. "You can use the money you saved for delivery," Jason added as he clicked on something. "And with my employee discount, you can get a much better phone than the one you have." AJ thought, wow. Later in room 103, AJ used his new smartphone to call a number from a piece of paper. "Hello?" a nervous voice answered. "You said I shouldn't play it cool," AJ replied. "Hi," Amaya said, her excitement clear. "Is this your number?" she asked. "Yes," he responded. "I just got it. So I can call you now?" He found himself smiling. "Yes, you can. Anytime." "I can't stop thinking about you," Amaya said. "Have you been thinking about me?" he answered honestly. "Yes." She made a happy noise. "So when will I see you again?" AJ had already done some thinking on this, but he checked again, even with the unexpected help. "In about 3 days." "That's too long," Amaya said. "I have a project to finish." "Tell me where this project is," she replied. "I'll bring you something to eat." He was surprised by her offer. "I'd like that," he said carefully, "but you might distract me." Not just for him, he figured, especially if Jason's sons were like most teenage boys. He heard voices murmuring in the background. "My friends say you sound like you're taken." The feeling of pressure returned, but it wasn't as strong as before. "I told you, I'm not." "And I believe you," she reassured him quickly. "Good. So I really can't see you sooner?" "I'll try to finish as fast as I can," he said. "Promise?" He still found it hard to believe that someone he had just met could be so open about her feelings. "I promise," he replied. They talked for another 5 minutes before he said he needed to start early. True to his word, an hour earlier, Jason had delivered everything in his truck, and along with Leo, he helped unload it into the shed. AJ got 2 boxes of tools, 2 firm handshakes, good wishes, and a brief description of Jason's sons, who were coming to help him in the morning. Amaya was not pleased about ending the call. She wanted to talk more, but she accepted it, even if she didn't want to. "The sooner I start, the sooner I finish," he explained. She sighed. "You better not dream about anyone else, because I'll know." He chuckled. "I'll try my best. Good night, Miss Paolini." She playfully replied, "Good night, Mr. Smith." Just 5 minutes later, he got his first call on his new number. He saw the name and shook his head in surprise. "What is going on?" He answered, "Hello?" "You said I could call any time," Amaya said. "Just checking in. Good night." He laughed again. "Good night, Amaya." 3 days, she said and hung up. He still felt some weight in his chest, but he went to sleep with a smile. Aaron and David Frankel were Irish twins, born just 11 months apart. They looked alike, both sharing similar features, but David took after their dad a bit more. "Aaron looks more like Mom," David said after their dad dropped them off in his truck. They were tired and grumpy because their dad had taken their phones, arriving about an hour after AJ had started the day. To his relief, they showed up wearing the right shoes and had their toolbox and gloves. After a quick check on how well they could read blueprints, having followed their dad on many construction jobs, they began to feel excited about the work ahead. "So, gentlemen," AJ said, bringing his hands together, "this building has a history and we need to respect that, okay?" The boys nodded, looking a mix of nervous and eager. He showed them a worn copper rod in the basement and explained that the building needed urgent repairs. "We'll have to set up a new grounding system, new panels, circuit breakers, and other important updates." He smiled at their worried faces. "Let's get to work." They moved to the attic to check the old wiring, carefully mapping out the system as they removed what was too old. "Be careful," AJ said as Aaron pulled on a cable. He trusted the boy wouldn't cause any damage, but he wanted to avoid explaining any problems to Jason. He sent David up to take a turn, then started taking apart the old main panel with David's help. Aaron returned just as he began to install the new 200-amp panel. It was new, though a previous version of the product, one of Jason's choices. While they worked, he shared knowledge not just about the task, and soon the boys were asking questions and sharing answers. They watched him work on the panel, and he had them help finish the last steps before taking them back down to the ground floor. After showing how to run new Romex cable through the walls, they took turns drilling holes and pulling wire, using the blueprints to find hidden paths when Deborah arrived. "Aaron?" she gasped, her mouth open in surprise. "David, what is happening?" "Hey, Auntie D!" David shouted over the noise. Aaron, being older and quieter, just waved and went back to his drilling. After AJ explained, she called Fred. She hugged everyone, including a friendly gesture for AJ before quickly leaving, tears in her eyes while she talked on the phone with her husband. AJ led the boys down to the basement to start positioning several ground rods and connecting them to the water and gas lines. He explained that he was making a complete grounding network for the building, not just one grounding point. Halfway through, Deborah called them up to the dining room for lunch. The boys' mother had made sandwiches, while AJ had bought a bag of jerky and cookies and had prepared 2 ice-cold cans of an energy drink in a thermal flask the day before. That was what he planned to eat. But when they were called to eat, the boys exchanged looks and headed upstairs, while AJ tried to protest. Deborah marched down into the basement. "Mr. John Smith, are you trying to upset me again?" The boys gave AJ playful smiles as he sat quietly in front of his bowl of pasta and meatballs. One bite in, he realized that Deborah's cooking was worth any scolding. He suddenly realized that everything he had tasted from her was very good. The boys laughed at his surprised look. "What's so funny?" he asked. 1. "No one says no to Auntie D when it comes to food," Aaron said. 2, David added, "her food is awesome." "You watch your words, young man," Deborah said playfully, but she was smiling. Feeling happily full, they went back downstairs to finish the grounding system, and AJ decided it was time to stop for the day. The sun was setting, and he could see they were tired, but the boys eagerly shared what they had done that day as they waited on the steps for Jason to pick them up. When Deborah came with fresh sandwiches, AJ wisely followed the boys' example and just accepted them. He was about to get in the shower when he received a call from Jason Frankel, an hour after he had picked up his boys. "Mr. Smith, what did you do to my boys?" AJ felt surprised. "What do you mean?" "They can't stop talking about you," Jason laughed. "They think you're some kind of genius." AJ felt a wave of relief and excitement at that. A smart person would have seen this, he thought. Jason kept talking, unaware. "So I sent my team to learn about electrical work, and you're giving them lessons on kings like George and Hanover, right?" "To be fair, we are working on a Georgian building," AJ replied, "and they actually learned the electrical stuff really well." "Sounds like it. I'm impressed, Mr. Smith." "You laid the groundwork," AJ said. "I'm just building on it. They are great young men, and you can call me John." "Stop calling me sir." "When you stop with the Mr. Smith thing," AJ shot back. Jason sighed. "The boys will be here early tomorrow. They asked me to remind you not to start without them." "I'll be ready." "Thank you very much, AJ." Jason added, Their mom and I really appreciate it. You're welcome. AJ smiled, feeling better. Sir, don't make me come over there. After his shower, AJ lay on the bed and called someone else. Amaya answered right away. I need to tell you something, she said after sharing her day. I'm a bit of a hypocrite. Oh? I wanted to call you many times today, she said, but I tried to play it cool instead. He laughed a little. It's kind of scary how much I like you, Mr. Smith, Amaya said softly. I can't stop thinking about you. AJ, confused, replied honestly, I don't know what to say to that, Amaya. That's okay, she assured him. Her voice was gentle. I'll figure it out. With you. Will you help me? AJ had never heard help sound so full of promise. Yes, he answered after a moment. My friends say I'm making it too easy for you and that I should make you work harder, she went on. But I'm not interested in playing games with you, John. I appreciate that, he replied. Good. Good night, Mr. Smith, Amaya said. See you in 2 days. Having seen what the boys could do, AJ took a day off, but he kept that to himself. What is happening? He thought, imagining Amaya Paolini's grace and wondering if he should take a cold shower to clear his mind. He did fall asleep, but woke up just before midnight to a knock at the door. He swung his legs off the bed and stood up. I'm coming, he said, getting his bearings in the still unfamiliar room. Belly frowned when he opened the door. Hello, Miss Thompson. How can I help you? He asked, surprised. She crossed her arms and looked at him intensely. What's really going on? Why are you doing this? Fred told me what happened, AJ replied after thinking for a moment. I thought I could help. Just like that? You think I'll believe you spent so much money on this property without any reason? She shook her head. Tell me the truth. What do you want from this? As she shared her feelings, AJ realized he was closer to her than ever before. She stood just beneath his chin, full of confidence in her face and posture. Her shirt showed a bit of skin, while her pajamas gave off a relaxed look. What if I just want to make things right for 102? She looked at him with narrowed eyes, skeptical. I find that hard to believe. AJ shrugged. If you say so. Why are you doing this? She pressed. AJ looked away for a moment, thinking. When he looked back at her, her expression was more serious. Because your mom and dad seem nice and could use some help, he finally replied. Because your uncle and aunt were kind enough to check on someone they didn't know and took care of him when he felt lost. And because I know that Fred and Deborah really care about your parents, I thought helping them would be the best way to show my gratitude. Belly blinked in surprise, and he noticed her breathing change. Then she turned and walked away. AJ closed the door and went back to bed. Jason dropped off Aaron and David soon after sunrise, just as AJ stepped outside to wait for them. Jason also gave him a friendly pat on the back and brought along a thermos of coffee and 2 bagels from Katie Frankel, Aaron, and David's mom. The boys sat with him on the stoop, enjoying their breakfast as AJ explained the day's tasks. Let's get started, he said after finishing his coffee and seeing the boys ready to go. He showed them how to use tools to trace wires to junction boxes and how to move circuits around. AJ had them watch as he worked on wiring outlets and replacing light fixtures in 2 rooms. He observed them as they copied his actions until he felt sure they could handle their own rooms while checking their work. David worked fast, as his dad had said, while Aaron was more careful and took his time. AJ only needed to help David a couple of times, while Aaron didn't need any help at all. Deborah arrived at noon with a picnic basket, asking everyone to take a break. She shot a playful glare at AJ, making the boys laugh until he quickly sat down at the table, eager to eat. She hugged and thanked everyone when they finished their meal, tears of joy in her eyes. After lunch, AJ taught the boys how to install GFCI outlets in the kitchen and bathrooms. Every room had its own bathroom, and they changed all the lights to LED bulbs. By late afternoon, David finished securing the last outlet. Installing weatherproof outlets and lights on the porch and deck went smoothly. They also set up landscape lighting around the property. Then, they connected everything back to the main panel, with AJ making sure the boys labeled each circuit clearly. As the sun started to set, AJ asked Aaron to flip the main switch for their first check, holding a multimeter to test the voltage and grounding. They followed him as he carefully tested the panel, every outlet, switch, and light. AJ had worried that the boys might be annoyed about doing it all over again, but instead they were eager to do a second check themselves. He quietly observed as they wrote everything down. To their surprise, when they stepped outside, Fred, Deborah, Tina, Tyler, Jason, Katie, and their daughters Faith and Carolyn were there, applauding and cheering. Both women had prepared a picnic-style dinner on the property. Fred pulled out a grill from the shed and started cooking burgers, hot dogs, and steaks. "You're not just strong, Mr. John Smith," Fred said. "You're also a good man." He leaned in closer. "And there are people in the city, especially one person, who will regret not remembering that." AJ didn't fully believe that, recalling the letter and the looks exchanged before. But in that moment, the weight of it didn't matter, and he appreciated the kindness just the same. Katie, who was Jason's former accountant, said while pointing at a red hatchback driving up. "There's Belly." Belly got out of her car, hands over her mouth, as she saw the building lit up brightly. "Oh my goodness." She excitedly hugged her cousins and then AJ, smiling as the crowd cheered. "There's more to this that you're not telling me," she said quietly just for him to hear. "But thank you." Her eyes sparkled as she looked at the bed and breakfast. "Thank you very much." "You're welcome," AJ replied. Amaya called while he was at the barbecue and picnic. "Are you going to tell me about your project?" she asked when he called her back. "Yes, if you want to know." "Really? What is it?" she asked. "It's kind of boring." She sniffed. "Try me." "I'm working on the wiring for a house," he said, glancing up at the ceiling in room 103. His stay was over, but when he tried to pay for more nights earlier, Deborah had given him an angry look, so he wisely put the money back in his pocket. "Wiring. Electrical wiring," he clarified. "So you're an electrician too?" she asked. "I helped my uncle with his jobs when I was a teenager," AJ explained. "I liked it. Later I worked on sites to earn money while studying and got certified." "Before you went into tech?" "And after," he thought, surprised at how light the weight in his chest felt at that moment. "Yes. I find you really interesting, Mr. Smith," Amaya said, half teasing. AJ had no response, so he asked her about her plans for the next day. She shared about her morning class and afternoon track practice. "And then," she finished, "I'm going to get ready to see you the next day." She paused. "How do you make me feel this way? What are you doing, John?" "I'm honestly confused, Amaya," AJ replied. How could he impact such an interesting woman? "I feel so excited," she said softly. "It's like I'm young again." "What's going on?" AJ wondered. "I really don't understand what you see in me, Amaya." "I can't explain it," she said, "but I know I really like it, and I want to see more." She called him again a minute after hanging up. One day. AJ did another walkthrough when he woke up, starting from the attic and working his way down to the basement, checking every outlet and panel. He stepped outside to inspect the outdoor installations before heading back in for a nice hot shower. He was getting dressed when he heard a knock at the door. He opened it to find Belly standing in a smart blouse and skirt with a sweater around her neck. "Good morning, Miss Thompson," he said, looking at her with curiosity. "Is everything okay?" "I made breakfast," she said briskly. "I saw you outside. I thought, maybe you'd want to join me." "Are you sure?" he asked. "You didn't need to go to all that trouble." She looked at him directly. "This is a Bedan breakfast, Mr. Smith. Come eat." He followed her to the kitchen of the Bedan breakfast and sat at the counter as she prepared a plate and a glass of orange juice for him. He waited for her to sit across from him with her own meal. "It's not poisoned," she said sharply. "Just eat." AJ looked at her, a mix of amusement, annoyance, and confusion on his face at her directness. "I was trying to be polite," she sniffed, her lips curling slightly as she gave him an assessing look before starting to eat without saying anything else. On his plate, there were 3 tasty crepes, while hers had 2. Each thin pancake was filled with sausage, eggs, and potatoes, all covered in a rich and creamy sauce. After his first bite, AJ realized that Belly might be just as skilled in cooking as her Aunt Deborah. "This is really good," AJ said. "You don't have to look so surprised," Belly replied. "I'm just saying it's amazing, like something you'd find in a fancy restaurant." "So you're not just a master electrician in nice suits? You're also a food critic?" AJ leaned back and regarded her. "You know," he said carefully, "I could eat in my room or leave if you don't want me here." Her mouth opened wide. "No, that's not what I—" "It's okay," AJ interrupted. "I'm not offended." "No," she said quickly. "Wait." He paused, waiting for her to continue. "Look," she said, looking away for a moment. "I'm sorry. I'm feeling a bit strange about yesterday." He raised an eyebrow. She pressed her lips together, looking shy. "I kissed you." "Oh." He smiled gently. "That's okay. You were just happy and saying thank you." She searched his face for a moment and then nodded. "Yes, that's it. Okay then. I'm in a relationship," she added. AJ nodded. "Okay. I don't usually thank people like that." "Okay." To fill the quiet moment, AJ went back to his meal. "Again," he said, tapping his fork on the plate. "This is great." Belly smiled. "Thank you." She started eating again. "So," she asked, "what about you? What about me? Is there a Mrs. Smith?" He felt a familiar weight in his chest, but it was lighter than usual. He shook his head and lifted his left hand, palm up. He wasn't lying. He believed he wasn't married. I never was. What about a girlfriend? He thought of Amaya, who liked him so openly. "I'm talking to someone." It felt odd to say. "Back home?" "No," he replied, feeling that weight return with the word. "Here in Camberley. I just met her." She looked at him with surprise. "That's quick. You just arrived 5 days ago?" "I'm just as confused as you are," AJ said honestly. Another silence fell. "What happened?" she asked, looking into his eyes. "Why did you struggle so much? Why did you seem to give up on yourself?" He stayed silent for a long moment, grappling with the weight. "It's not something I want to discuss. It hurts a lot." She opened her mouth, then closed it again, sensing something in his expression. Her look changed from curiosity to understanding. "Were you really in that much pain?" It took him a moment to find the words. "Yes." "I'm sorry," she said, reaching out to touch his hand. "For what I said." "For what happened in the car." He shrugged. "It's okay. After everything you've been through, I would feel the same way." She looked at him. "How are you so kind?" "Kind? Someone just told me I was not nice," he said, his lips curling up. "And no," he added quickly as she started to speak again. "It's not because of you." She raised an eyebrow, looking playful. "Are you sure? That yet another lovely woman said I wasn't nice this week? Yes?" She smiled. "Another lovely woman?" He grinned. To be fair, Deborah didn't say it out loud, but she definitely thought it. Belly laughed. He thought her laugh was wonderful. "The second woman really did say it just 3 days ago, and I had just met her," he continued. "She's the one I'm getting to know." She shook her head, her lips curling up. "You've been busy. And you're, of course, the first," he added. To his surprise, she looked away as if she was trying to hide her smile. Was she blushing? "I'm sorry," she said again. "Don't be," he replied. "I deserved it." She looked into his eyes and he smiled, receiving a bright smile in return. "By the way," he said, "I'm a journeyman, not a master." "What?" "I'm trained as a journeyman electrician," AJ explained. "Not a master electrician." "Oh." She shrugged, not seeming to mind. "So what do you do?" AJ asked. "I just started teaching middle school, geography and history." "Nice," AJ said. "I liked history a lot in school." She smiled playfully. "So you were a nerd?" "And a geek," he admitted, grinning. "But I kept it a secret. I joined the Junior Ranger Corps. What about you? I bet you were one of the pretty and popular girls." She tried to hide her smile again, avoiding his gaze. "No, I was short. I still am. And I was shy and skinny. I kind of grew into myself," she said, gesturing at herself awkwardly. "Let me guess," he said. The boys were all over you. No, she replied. I was a tomboy. I wore my tracks and hoodies, and I didn't grow much taller. I assure you, he said, the boys wouldn't have cared about that. In fact, I'll bet a lot of the boys in your classes now have crushes on you. But I'm so much older than them, she exclaimed, her face turning red. And they won't mind. It might even make it more fun. Trust me. I used to be a middle school boy, AJ insisted. We all had crushes on the pretty teachers. You? You would have been at the top of the list. She smiled at him, and he smiled back. How is your dad doing? He asked after a moment, changing the subject, mostly because he was curious. If you don't mind me asking? She took a moment to think, clearly shifting gears in her mind. The doctor said yesterday that his brain activity is starting to improve. That's great, AJ said. Isn't it? Yes, it is, she replied, taking a deep breath. I haven't told anyone yet, not even Mom. I don't want to get everyone's hopes up if it doesn't work out. It will, AJ promised her. I'm glad you're sharing this with me. Yeah, Belly said. I guess I am. I think I like talking to you, Mr. Smith. I'm happy to hear that. Just call me John. Okay, John, she replied. You should know that we won't accept your money anymore. You can stay here as long as you'd like. But that's enough, she said firmly. We're not taking your money again, and that's that. And don't call me Miss Thompson. My students call me that. It's Belly. Belinda Thompson got into her car and paused, looking at herself in the rearview mirror. She felt as confused as she looked. She was going to be late for work because she had spent extra time at breakfast talking to him. He was the one who noticed how late she was and told her to go, offering to clean up the kitchen. But instead of starting the car to make up for lost time, she sat still and reflected on her feelings. Her heart was still racing, and her cheeks felt warm. She realized she liked him, and she couldn't pretend otherwise. She liked him a lot. She was surprised by her disappointment when he mentioned he was talking to someone. When she said goodbye in the kitchen, she wanted to share her feelings more openly. She wished she could experience what it would be like to be close to him. What's happening to me? She wondered. Am I actually starting to care for this guy? She recalled a troubling time with another man who had been in a difficult situation. The sadness in his eyes when he woke up had stayed with her. Later, her Aunt Deborah had left a voice message she listened to on her way home after a long Saturday at the hospital. She couldn't believe what she heard and had to confirm it was true. When she faced him that night to ask why, it changed how she saw him. The sorrow and honesty in his expression had completely changed her first impression. The next day, when she returned to see the Wellet building, everything looked different to her. For some reason, a brief moment they shared felt very special. The emotional rush that followed kept her up at night. She wished she could have left things as they were. Inviting him for breakfast to clear up any misunderstandings had turned out to be a big mistake. Taking a deep breath, she started the car and drove away. AJ stepped out of the large Georgian building and walked toward the shopping center. I could pick you up, the caller had suggested. No thanks, AJ replied. I'll walk. AJ was passing the Bacchus's cellar when the doors opened, and Terry, the clerk who had previously turned him away, stepped outside. Hey! AJ stopped. He remembered Terry's name from before. Terry approached him. Hello, friend? AJ smiled back. Hello, friend. Terry looked him over. Where's that nice suit? I got rid of it. It was a pretty nice suit. AJ shrugged. It didn't fit anymore. I see. Terry narrowed his eyes. Well, you look better than I thought you would. I was worried you might be in rough shape. Actually, I have you to thank for that. Terry frowned. How? I sold you those bottles. I wish I hadn't. Once you bought them, they were yours and I couldn't take them back. What you had could have led you down a hard road. You stopped me from buying more and told someone who helped me before it was too late. AJ explained. Terry blinked at this. Well, that's something. I guess my talking did some good after all. I guess so. AJ extended his hand. Thanks. I appreciate it. Wow, okay. Terry shook his hand. You're welcome. I'm Terry, by the way. I'm John. Leonard waved from his cashier's station as AJ walked through to Jason Frankel's office. He knocked and entered when invited. Inside sat another man across from Jason, a big, strong-looking guy, older but still fit, enjoying a cup of coffee and smiling at what Jason was saying. "Hey, John," Jason said. "Hi, Jason. This is my friend Bill Garrison from Garrison Builders." "Hello, Mr. Garrison," AJ said. "After what you did for Don and Pam, just call me Bill." "Okay," AJ replied. "Nice to meet you, Bill." "Please have a seat, AJ," Jason said. AJ sat down, looking expectantly at both men. "Bill here," Jason said, "went to school with Don." "Unfortunately," Bill added. "I didn't know what had happened to him until now. We don't talk much, and I live far away. Otherwise, I would have helped." AJ had nothing to say in response, so he said, "Okay. The thing is," Bill explained, "business has been challenging, and everything I have is tied up in a big project we just won in Sutton. I couldn't have done much even if I had known. You really helped Don and apparently used a lot of your own resources to do it, and I want to thank you for that." "That's all right," AJ said, feeling a little shy. "I was happy to help." "Second," Bill continued, "I want to offer you a job." AJ looked surprised at both men. "Fred told me yesterday that you're looking for something to do," Jason said. "Then Aaron mentioned that you plan to improve the Band B's networking. So when Bill said he needed someone to help with that for his team, I thought of you." "Oh, I see. Are you qualified for this networking work?" Jason asked. AJ shrugged and nodded. "I'm certified, yes." "Well," Bill said, "we're turning this old block of houses in Sutton into a single place for a hotel chain. These buildings are historical, so we have to be careful. Otherwise, we might have issues with the Historical Society. I really need someone who understands both sides of the work to meet my deadline." AJ frowned. "There must be others who can do it." "Not in the county, and certainly not at the rates I can afford for people from outside," Bill sighed. "Once I finish and get paid, I can afford to pay everyone, even those from outside, but not before. So you see my problem." AJ looked between the two men. Bill seemed anxious yet hopeful, while Jason kept a calm face. "What do you need from me?" "I want to hire you at the normal contract rate plus 25%, Bill said nervously. "But I'll have to pay you 60% of what I owe you each week, and the other 40% in one payment after we finish and I get paid." AJ kept his expression neutral, like Jason. "Can I see what the buildings look like?" Bill pulled out his phone and browsed through his pictures, showing AJ a folder. "What hotel chain is it?" "Apex Regal." AJ felt a bit relieved. "What is the standard rate?" Bill told him, and AJ noticed Jason nodding as he calculated the numbers. "What's your deadline?" 3 months. AJ studied both men, thinking it over. "I hope you know you can say no, and no one would think badly of you," Jason said, with Bill agreeing. AJ replied, "Okay, send me the blueprints and your design plans so I can start working on this." Bill's face lit up with a big smile. "Really? Wow. I'm so thankful. You have no idea how much this helps me." Bill was still smiling as he drove away, promising to send everything AJ requested along with a contract. This meant AJ needed to set up a new email and text the address to Bill. "So did you decide to help Bill before or after he mentioned it was Apex?" Jason asked, raising his eyebrows. AJ smiled. "Before," he admitted. Jason laughed and followed up with, "Why?" "I trust your judgment," AJ said, "and he seems like a good person." "He is," Jason confirmed. "And he needed help," AJ added. "I have some free time." Jason looked at AJ with a friendly smile. "You're a good person too, Mr. John Smith. I hope you know that." AJ felt a bit shy. "Thank you." "Are you going back to Millie's?" Jason asked. "I can give you a ride." "No." "Okay, then where are you heading?" When AJ arrived at the university stadium, he felt a little nervous. Now that he was here, he questioned if this was the right choice. He held a small bunch of flowers that he had purchased from a shop nearby, not far from where Jason had dropped him off. He had picked the flowers himself. The woman at the front desk noticed the flowers and smiled. "Hi, how can I help you?" AJ thought flowers might seem old-fashioned these days. He imagined the woman he was giving them to might find it funny and wonder if he was too old for her. "I want to surprise someone," he said, pushing those thoughts away. "She's on the track team." "Are you a student, alumni, employee, or faculty member?" she asked. He felt a twinge of embarrassment. No, I'm none of those." She looked a bit let down. "Oh, I'm sorry. I can only let you in if you're one of those or if someone who is checks you in." "I'm really sorry." AJ shook his head. "It's all right, I didn't know. Thanks." "Those flowers are really lovely," she noted, pointing to the bouquet, which made him feel a bit better. "Thank you." As AJ turned to leave, he heard someone call his name. "Hey, John." Coming down the hallway was Joran, smiling widely, along with two other enthusiastic young men in sports gear. "Hi, Joran," AJ responded. "Guys," Joran said to his friends, "this is the awesome guy I told you about who helped my team with that big assignment." AJ shrugged as he shook their hands. "You all would have figured it out in time." "Not with that deadline," Joran replied. "I was really considering dropping that class." Then he noticed the flowers, and his smile grew even wider. "That's for Amaya, right?" AJ felt no need to hide it. "Yeah." One of Joran's teammates looked impressed. "Wow, you're going out with Amaya Paolini?" "I'm not sure," AJ said carefully. "Yet." "Well, she seems sure," Joran said. "And I think Talana is a little jealous." He leaned in closer. "And don't mention it to Rolly, but I think Leanne feels that way too." AJ wasn't quite sure how to respond. "So," Joran asked with a teasing raise of his eyebrows, "you want to go inside? She's at practice. I can sign you in." AJ nodded. "Thanks, Joran." "Anytime." Joran leaned in again and added, "I think she'll be really happy to see you." AJ headed to the track, entering through the door near the finish line. He looked for a specific runner among the group of women moving around the track. As he waited for them to come back around, he felt the bouquet getting heavier in his hand and started to wonder again about what he was doing. Was this a good idea? Was he just looking for comfort after everything? And what about her? Was he a good choice for her? He knew he hadn't fully healed yet. What if he hurt her because he didn't hold back when he should have? What if he didn't explain that he was still recovering? Was it enough that he felt lighter in his heart whenever he remembered how she would hurry to get ready for him? Did her excited voice during their talks boost his confidence? Was he? Then he saw them coming around the corner, running in groups of 3. That's when he noticed her, part of a team training together. Her hair was tied back, and she wore a sports top and running shorts. She was glowing with sweat, her eyes focused, breathing steady as she moved with her teammates. In that moment, he understood why Joran's teammate had seemed so impressed that he was with Amaya Paolini. She was so stunning right then that his earlier worries disappeared, becoming unimportant as he wondered what someone so amazing could see in him. He caught her eye when she noticed him. Her gaze passed over him before shifting back, and her eyes widened in surprise. With some excitement, she broke away from her team and ran toward him. She jumped into his arms, making him drop the flowers he had brought. She hugged him warmly, covering his face with friendly kisses. Then she pulled back slightly, and he leaned in too. "What?" she breathed, looking up at him with surprise. "What are you doing here? I thought I'd see you tomorrow. You said 3 days." "I promised I'd come as soon as I could," AJ reminded her. "I thought I could surprise you." Her face lit up with pure joy. "Well, you did." Then she moved closer again, but paused with a worried look. "What's wrong?" AJ asked, a bit puzzled. "I'm all sweaty." "You look wonderful," he said softly, his hands resting on her shoulders. "And," he added, "I think you're absolutely beautiful." She blushed and looked down, then noticed the flowers on the ground. "Are those for me?" "Yes." Her smile shone brightly. "Thank you. They're beautiful." She picked the bouquet up and took his hand. "Let's go." She started to walk away from the track. "What about your practice?" AJ asked. "I can wait." She glanced back at her teammates who had paused to watch her. Some were smiling, some looked confused, and others seemed a bit annoyed that she interrupted their training. All were curious. "Well, I can't." She led him to her car and drove to her apartment building, where only female students lived, so she could shower and change. "I'll be quick," she promised, giving him a quick kiss before going inside. He stayed in the lobby, where only male visitors who were let in by someone living there could wait. He sat and noticed the curious looks from others, especially the women who had seen their kiss. Looking at their casual clothes, he thought most of them must be residents. 3 other men were seated nearby, also waiting. They exchanged amused glances with him. There were newspapers and magazines on the tables. AJ picked up one newspaper from yesterday and quickly glanced at the front page. When he turned to the second page, he saw a picture and a story about some legal issues the Rixton Hotel Group was having. He put the paper down, feeling a heaviness in his chest. She returned in under 20 minutes, wearing a sundress with a small bag on her shoulder. The lovely dress showed off her features as she playfully leaned against him, which sparked whispers around them. The heaviness in his chest lightened more than he expected, and AJ decided to let the day unfold however it would. She held his hand firmly as they walked out of the building. "Show me Camberley. Show me your favorite places," he said. Amaya's face brightened. "Okay, but you might think I'm a little odd." She kept his hand in hers as they strolled down the main street, pointing out the mix of modern and old buildings. Her lively comments made him laugh, especially since she skipped the boring details about their history. "The first time I got lost here, this is where I figured out my way," she said. "I almost ran my car into that building over there," he admitted. "Best croissants ever," she said, pointing to an older building on a side street. "Really?" "Yes," she urged, pulling him along. "Let me show you." She pretended to be disappointed when he chose a peanut butter and blueberry croissant over her favorite strawberry one, but a friendly gesture quickly cheered her up. In the end, he had to agree with her. They were the best croissants he had ever tasted. She stopped in front of a large, beautiful building. "The Brown and Lemon Theater," AJ read. "Kellerson University School of Film and Theater Arts." "I love this place," Amaya said. He noticed she had paused and looked at her curiously. "What were you going to say?" "I'm not sure it's a good idea." He gazed into her eyes. "Tell me." She hesitated. "I was going to say that a guy brought me here once and I fell in love." "Oh, not with him," she quickly replied, eyes wide. "With this place." He laughed. "With theater." "Yes," she replied, smiling back at him, feeling relieved. "I was thinking that I shouldn't be mentioning another guy when I'm with you." AJ shrugged. "You're here with me. That's all that mattered." She felt her cheeks warm under his gaze, and he wrapped her in a gentle hug, pleased at how she nestled against him. "What was the show?" he asked, once they pulled apart a bit. "Oh," she sighed, "Sherlock Holmes and the Queen's Ruby." "Why did you enjoy it so much?" "It was amazing!" she exclaimed. "The sets, the costumes, the singing, the dancing, it was magical. And it was funny, too. I couldn't believe how much I liked it." He enjoyed her excitement, especially since she kept her arms around him. "So that's my little secret," she said, smiling and scrunching her nose. "I'm a musical theater fan. Is that a problem?" AJ shrugged. "I played Aramis in The Secret Musketeer." She blinked in surprise. "Really?" "Yes," AJ said. "Back in high school." "I don't believe you." "On guard! Defend yourself! On guard! Prepare to face the musketeers! On guard!" he sang. Her happiness was clear. She took him to a charming bookshop where she found old books for her book-loving father, and to a cozy cafe that served what she promised was the best hot chocolate. "He adds vanilla, cinnamon, and a bit of coffee," Amaya told him. "Girls call it the heart unbreaker." He laughed. The sun was sinking when they arrived at the park with a pizza box from a small family-run shop down a side street. Gianni, the owner, clearly knew Amaya well, and they exchanged friendly greetings in Italian. Even though he looked at AJ with suspicion, the old man smiled as he handed her the extra-large trash bag she had asked for. Amaya then guided him to a spot under a big oak tree, laying the plastic bag on the grass as a makeshift picnic blanket. They sat together facing the sunset, watching the sky change colors while they enjoyed the pizza, and he shared stories from his time on the stage. They shared a quiet moment, feeling relaxed and happy. "Can I take you to your place?" she asked, resting her head gently on his shoulder. "I want to know where you live." It took him a moment to answer. "I'm not living anywhere right now," AJ said, not surprised that what should have felt heavy felt far away instead. "I'm staying at a Band B until I figure some things out." She looked at him, wanting to know more. "Can you tell me about it now? Why are you in Camberley?" "I can't," he said, hating to see her look hurt. "Not right now." He decided then not to be selfish. "Amaya, I'm not really. Good for you right now. I'm feeling a bit lost and I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want to hurt you." She frowned. "I decide what's good for me." "Listen," he said again. "I don't want to depend on you to feel better. You deserve more than that." She took his hand, holding it tightly. "So," she said, narrowing her eyes, "I make you feel better, right?" He looked into her eyes. "Yes. More than I ever thought possible." "Guess what I have in my purse?" she asked after a moment. "Keys," he guessed. She rolled her eyes. "And wallet, phone?" She shook her head, smiling wider. "A toothbrush." "Oh." They shared a quiet laugh, enjoying their understanding of each other. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Anything." "I've only been close to 2 guys before," she said gently. "My high school boyfriend and a guy from my class. I liked him a lot, but he transferred and broke up with me." He stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I wasn't like this with either of them," she told him, looking sincerely into his eyes. "This feels different, like it's meant to be." He brushed her hair from her face and leaned in, their foreheads touching as the day turned to night. "Will you show me where you're staying?" she asked. "I want to spend more time with you." He nodded, amazed at how things had changed. "Just to be clear," she added softly, "I want to be here with you as long as you need." They enjoyed the calm moment, the evening breeze gently rustling the leaves as the first stars appeared. There was a shortcut through the park to her apartment. It was narrow and lined with trees, but also dark. She stepped in front of him, playfully placing something in his pocket with a grin, her eyes sparkling with mischief. They walked closely, filled with energy and anticipation. Soon they reached her building's underground parking lot and entered her car. Laughter and quiet words filled the space as they shared stories and glances. She adjusted her dress as they prepared to leave, smiling as she settled into the driver's seat. Their hands brushed against each other, and the atmosphere felt charged, even with the quiet sounds of the engine and traffic around them. As they left the town center and went onto quieter streets, they relaxed, the sense of closeness between them deepening. Their conversation became softer and more personal, with occasional silences that spoke volumes. They arrived at Millie and Milton's apartment sooner than expected. Amaya fixed her outfit and stepped outside, feeling both urgent and excited. To AJ's relief, the apartment was quiet. They entered the place easily. Amaya walked in first, heading to the living room while AJ followed, taking off his jacket. They both laughed softly, enjoying the comfort that was growing between them. They sat close together on the couch, sharing quiet moments and friendly words. AJ leaned back and sighed. "It's been a long day." She nodded and leaned against his shoulder. "Yeah, but not a bad one." Later they settled in more comfortably. She rested her head on his chest, and he gently brushed her hair back, savoring the peace of the moment. As the night grew deeper, they took turns getting ready for bed. She came back in a cozy shirt and smiled as she slipped under the covers. AJ joined her, and they lay side by side in silence, talking softly and enjoying each other's presence. Eventually, her eyes began to close. She snuggled closer to him, finding warmth and comfort in his embrace. The next morning, soft light streamed in through the blinds. They woke up slowly, feeling happy and relaxed, sharing gentle words and smiles. They brushed their teeth together in the small bathroom, stealing playful glances in the mirror. Then, AJ playfully lifted her and carried her back to the bed, where they lay peacefully once more. They discussed the day ahead, sharing hopes, experiences, and the comfort they found in each other's company. Amaya looked up at him and said softly, "I never thought I could feel this connection." He smiled in response. "Me neither." They enjoyed that quiet moment together, wrapped in trust and friendship, feeling something gentle and new. Belly heard voices coming from apartment 103. She paused with her hand raised to knock, unsure if she should. She wore her favorite soft pajama bottoms, which felt comfortable. After a moment, she hesitated, lowered her hand, and took a step back, deciding to wait until morning. She held a small picnic basket in the other hand. Inside were 3 pieces of fluffy naan bread and 2 curries a mild korma for him, since she preferred the spicier jalfrezi. Given his recent issues with drinking, she brought a bottle of non-alcoholic wine to enjoy with the meal. It was just a way to talk with him more and see if the feelings she had that morning were real. There might be a kiss or two if things went well, but nothing beyond that. Wanting to catch his attention, she opened the top of the basket slightly. He was certainly thinking about their conversation, even more than she realized, especially because of the other woman's excited voice. She felt embarrassed and upset with herself and with him. The situation seemed unnecessary. He had made no promises, played no games, and told her no lies. He had only turned her head, and then she had said she was in a relationship, which was true, but barely. It felt even less real now with him occupying her thoughts so much. He owed her nothing. In fact, she realized she owed him. Maybe it was just a moment? Or something casual, she thought, deep down knowing it wasn't. The disappointment felt silly as she turned to leave, telling herself not to cry. Then she heard the woman call his name, and her embarrassment mixed with an unexpected sense of longing. Next, she heard the woman's voice raise in a plea, "Please, please, Mr. John Smith." Heat rose in her cheeks, and she walked away faster, wanting to feel less like a spectator. He looked surprised when she stepped out of the bathroom after her shower. She quickly wrapped a towel around herself as she joined him on the bed. There were no awkward words needed. She knew he appreciated her affection, which made her feel even happier. He paused. "You mentioned you had a class this morning," he reminded her. "Oh no," she thought, wishing she hadn't shared her schedule. "Don't worry about that," she said softly. But he shook his head, and for a moment, she worried he wouldn't continue. To her relief, he did. They shared a brief moment together, lost in each other's eyes. "You need to go," he insisted after a while as she settled beside him, wanting to stay. She tried to resist when he gently lifted her off, and in the end, he helped her get dressed because she didn't want to do it herself. Having someone help her get ready felt strange, especially when she could still feel their connection. He put on his pants and shirt and took her hand to lead her to her car since she didn't want to leave. Saying goodbye almost made them stay together longer. As it was, 2 buttons were undone, and she felt a sense of freedom. He explained why the bed and breakfast was empty due to a lightning strike and his work fixing the building's electrical system. She cuddled against him, enjoying the comfort of their connection. "So I can be as loud as I want," she joked, and they both laughed. He chuckled softly. "Yes." She playfully called his name, laughing when he pulled her closer to quiet her. "Okay, not that loud," he said, smiling. She giggled again, enjoying their time together as they relaxed. "So, am I seeing you again tonight?" Amaya asked, leaning against her car, her arms around his neck. "Because that was our original plan." He smiled. "Yes." She leaned in, feeling a sense of urgency. "Let me stay." "Please." "No," he said kindly but clearly. "You need to go to class and I have to get to work." Amaya gave him one last kiss and got into her car when she saw that he wouldn't change his mind. Even though she felt warm inside from being close to him, she managed to make a playful pout with her lips. She leaned in through the window and smiled. "See you tonight," she said as she shifted the car into drive and left, glancing back through the mirrors until he was out of view. She quickly checked her situation. She had a notebook in the car and a pair of running shorts that she could wear without raising eyebrows. The zip-up hoodie had a small stain, but it would help cover that she wasn't fully ready for the day ahead. She realized she could go straight to class, but she would still be at least 10 minutes late. Her econometrics professor was known for being quite strict. There was no hiding the fact that she wore yesterday's outfit, and her hair was tied up in a noticeable ponytail. She looked in the mirror and saw her flushed cheeks, realizing that her neighbors might have noticed she was gone all night. But was it really a walk of shame when she didn't feel that way at all? Instead, she felt happy from the time spent with him, and proud as she remembered their special moments. She smiled as she thought about their chat on her interests, her passion for development economics and international relations, sparked by her father and her Argentine mother, who was a book editor and painter. She cherished the adventures she had following her dad on his research trips. As she drove, she reflected on how he listened to her stories, encouraging her to share more about herself. The way he made her feel valued brought a smile to her face. Though he had not shared much about his own life, she decided to be patient and look forward to getting to know him better over time. She felt a nice thrill as she drove, recalling their playful moments and the joy that filled the evening. For a moment, she thought about turning around and skipping her classes, wondering how disappointed he might be if she didn't show up. "Is this love?" she wondered, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Belly Thompson watched as the girl in the sundress drove away after a long talk with John by the car. From where she stood, it was clear that the girl had a good time, and her hesitation to leave was noticeable even from a distance. The girl was younger, taller, and exuded confidence, dressed in a way that highlighted her appeal. A wave of disappointment and jealousy rushed over Belly. Though she felt no reason to be upset, she couldn't help herself. After returning to her cottage, she called her boyfriend, who was in a different time zone, and ended their relationship. The weight of her plan to end things with him in a fair way troubled her. A relationship was not just a stopgap until she found someone better. He deserved more, and they ended things on good terms. She sensed he might already be interested in someone nearer, someone with a more stable routine. She also thought about John. He deserved better too. He had not done anything wrong, and she promised to treat him nicely from now on. As she reflected, she noticed the basket of Indian food she had made the night before, now left untouched and likely spoiled. Belly closed the curtain, reminding herself that feeling upset was not necessary, and went to get ready for school. AJ arrived at the shopping center and first stopped at a copy shop to print some documents from his phone. He then called Bill Garrison to apologize for his delay. "You really need to get a car," Bill said, understanding why AJ was late. "I know, I'm working on it," AJ replied. "It won't happen again." In reality, after cashing a check, he had enough money to buy a car right away. But he didn't want to use it for that. It felt wrong to him, even if it didn't seem so to others. When he told Amaya about fixing Millie's, he hadn't included that he did it all on his own, buying the materials without taking any money from the owners. So, he thought about the cash he had left when he entered room 102 with 4 bottles of vodka. It would have to be enough until Garrison started paying him. Luckily, he thought as he walked past Hammer Jack, he had made a very smart friend. He took the 17 bus again, this time heading away from the town center, getting off 5 stops and 15 minutes later. His destination was only a 2-minute walk from the bus stop, but it took another 5 minutes to walk through the large parking lot and enter the building. A saleswoman quickly approached him with a friendly smile. "Hi there. Welcome to Carlo's, where the quality is high and the prices are low. How can I help you today?" He smiled back. "How many times have you said that?" She paused, then laughed. "Way too many times." "What can I do for you?" she asked, looking at him with a warm smile. Her name tag read Linda. "I'm supposed to meet Carlo Bracetti." "Is he here?" She nodded. "Is he expecting you?" "Yes," AJ confirmed. "Jason Frankel sent me." Her smile widened. "How is Jason?" "He's good," AJ replied, feeling a bit awkward. He didn't know Jason well enough to say much more. "That's great. Let me take you to Carlo." Carlo turned out to be a friendly man of average height, dressed in the same polo shirt and khaki uniform as his employees. His name tag was unusually large and bright red with DA Big Boss written on it, and he had flashy decorations clipped to his shoulders. "I lost a bet," he said, rolling his eyes as Linda laughed. He shot her a look, and she saluted playfully before walking away, trying to keep a serious face. He turned to AJ with a playful smile and pointed at the decorations. "Just wearing this until noon." He chuckled. "But I'm keeping the tag. I like it. Let's head to my office." An hour later, AJ drove away from Carlo's cars in a 5-year-old gray sedan he was renting. The payment plan was good, and the car was in excellent condition. He had been told it was barely used, bought new by an older woman who decided she didn't need to drive anymore. "I expected you sooner," Carlo said from his desk. "I thought you would be here yesterday after Jason called." "I'm sorry," AJ replied. "Something came up. I hope it was worth it." AJ's unexpected response surprised Carlo. "Wow, I never imagined that would actually happen." AJ laughed, confirming that it had indeed been a unique experience. He didn't want to think about Amaya Paolini while he was at work, so he quickly steered the conversation back to business. Linda was called in to finish the deal, and if he guessed right, earn her commission. But alone in his new car, with 30 to 40 minutes until he reached his destination, he could replay the events of the previous night without worrying about getting embarrassed. He just needed to adjust himself a bit for comfort. He still found it hard to believe everything that had happened. He had forgotten how open and giving someone could be, completely confident yet caring at the same time. How did that even make sense for him? Telling her to leave for her class had been so difficult. It took all his willpower to not give in when she had asked him to let her stay that morning, and by then she had already made him late by an hour. Not that he minded, though he was unsure how to explain the many water stains Amaya had left behind in room 103 to Deborah. He arrived in the small tourist town of Sutton and used his phone's navigation until he spotted the row of terraced houses he had seen on Bill Garrison's phone earlier. He saw Bill himself wearing a hard hat, holding blueprints and pointing from the paper to the large connected building. He was talking to another man in a hard hat who was listening carefully with his arms crossed. AJ beeped the horn to get their attention and got out of the car. "Well," Bill said, looking happy, "when you said you'd be late, I didn't expect it to be just 45 minutes. AJ shook hands with both men, and soon after, he, Bill, and Mike Lyman, the foreman, were walking into the site office. A hard hat was quickly found for AJ. "So, Mr. John Smith," Mike said with a challenging tone, "Bill here says you do both networking and electrical work?" "Yes. That's a nice combination," AJ shrugged. "Thanks. You'll have to show us what you can do," Mike said. "I don't care much for cards or diplomas." AJ nodded. "I understand. Just to be clear," Mike continued, "this is Bill's company, but it's my site, and no one gets on it without my permission. Clear?" AJ respected that. Clear. Even though Bill owned the company, Mike was in charge. Both Bill and Mike looked satisfied with his response. "So," Bill said with a smile, "with that all squared away." Mike chuckled in a friendly way. "Show us what you can do," Bill finished. AJ had opened an email account to receive the pictures, blueprints, and design plans Bill promised him the day before. He received them within 5 minutes of texting his new email address to Bill. After Jason dropped him off, his first stop was the library to use a computer, print, and think things over. He then created a work plan based on his initial measurements, leaving some room for adjustments, since things often turned out differently than expected. He finished reviewing everything just as Bill's contract arrived in his inbox. He made a couple of changes and sent it back. Bill replied without any issues, and that was done. Then he went to surprise Amaya at the track. The weight on his chest was still there, but it felt lighter now, allowing him to look at it more calmly. He quickly turned his attention to the large envelope on Mike's table. As with Jason, seeing his work seemed to relax the two men. Taking a deep breath, he began to share his ideas, pointing to different spots on the blueprints as he talked. "First, I'll need to walk through each house to see how the design will work in real life. We all know that plans and reality don't always match." Both men nodded. "Yep," Mike said, "and that's without any unexpected surprises." AJ smiled along with them. "Now, considering the layout, I want to set up the main network center in one of the central houses, with a backup plan maybe 2 houses over. It'll be the center of our network. From there," AJ continued, "we'll run fiber optic cables to each house, using the basements or attics to keep the main areas clear. We need to make sure the Historical Society is pleased." "I really don't like those groups," Mike said quietly. "They didn't show any interest in these buildings until they found out about the renovations. Now they are all about preserving the history." "Calm down, Mike," Bill said kindly, though it was clear he felt the same way. "Go ahead, John." "In each house," AJ explained while pointing, We'll set up connection points like mini-stations that connect to the main network and spread access throughout the building. What about the rooms? Mike asked. We'll use Ethernet cables and Wi-Fi access points. The goal is to have complete coverage without any visible wires. What about power? Bill inquired. I'll work closely with your electrical team to ensure we have enough power supply and grounding for everything. We'll put in backup power systems at important spots in each house, AJ said, and add specific circuits to use power over Ethernet where we can. Power over Ethernet? Bill asked for clarification. It lets us send both data and electrical power through one Ethernet cable, AJ explained. So for things like Wi-Fi access points, security cameras, and IP phones, we can power them directly with the network cable. This cuts down the need for individual power outlets and makes setup easier. Really? Mike thought out loud. So we can reduce the electrical work and still power all these devices? That could save us time and hassle. Exactly, AJ agreed. It's great because we want to limit any visible changes and keep the historical society happy. Plus, the elevators you've already put in made running lines through the buildings much easier. Mike and Bill nodded in agreement. AJ was impressed. The work to install the 3 lift systems had been done early and well, showing both men's skill and experience. Also, AJ added, power over Ethernet will make managing power simpler for the team, letting them easily monitor usage across the whole hotel when it's ready. Okay, Mike said, looking at AJ's plans. How will you fit in with my team? We can't have you in the way of the carpenters or the other way around. AJ shrugged. As you finish up work in each house, I'll start my part. First, I'll lay the main cables to connect that house to the main network. Then I will set up the IDF, run the cabling while the walls are being closed, and finally install and configure the network equipment and access points. Bill asked, what timeline are we looking at? AJ had thought about this already, but he took a moment now that he had seen the property. If we don't find any surprises in the walls, I estimate about a week for each house for networking and electrical work. But I can work faster to fit your schedule. I'll need a day or 2 at the start to set up the NOC and some time at the end to finish everything. So for 10 houses, that would be about 10 weeks, plus another 5 days if necessary. I'll give you an extra week just in case, Mike said. AJ smiled. Thank you, I appreciate that. Bill and Mike exchanged looks, then smiled broadly at AJ. Mike offered his hand again with respect in his eyes. Welcome to the Apex Regal on Sutton Crescent project. Let's start the walkthrough, shall we? No, Bill interrupted, picking up the 3 copies of the documents AJ had set aside. Let's get these signed first. He returned her call while driving away from Sutton, happy to have the job secured with contracts signed by Bill Garrison and Mike Lehman as a witness. Hi, he said, shaking his head at his reflection. Her voice was clear on the speaker, and just hearing her made him smile widely. Where are you? Just coming back from Sutton. Oh. He could tell she sounded a bit let down, which made him feel good. I got a car. I'll be back soon. Oh. She sounded much brighter. That's great. Can't wait to see it. It's nothing special. I'm sure I can make it special, she said playfully. He thought about the car in a new way and switched the topic. Are your assignments done? She laughed. Yes, Daddy, he chuckled. Okay, I'll come pick you up. I'll be waiting, Mr. Smith, she replied. How did the hotel meeting go? He smiled to himself. It went very well. If finding something to keep him occupied and lift his spirits was the goal, then the job at Apex Regal on Sutton Crescent was just right. The survey with Bill and Mike had shown that the owners of the houses on the Crescent were quite a mixed group over the years. Some changes were minor and none were major, but at least 2 houses would need some extra work to set up properly. He also met some of the crew and was not surprised when they quickly tested his skills. He had a feeling that Mike was somehow involved in the sudden vanishing of the electrical team and their chief's casual request for help with checking and fixing a junction box. AJ agreed to help right away, glad to move through the normal vetting process for the work crew, and pleased to see the chief nod in approval while Mike shrugged. The foreman's presence during the contract sign sent a clear message. The assessment confirmed AJ's belief that the NOC should go in House 5, with House 7 serving as a backup. He also suggested changing the project plan. Clearing the basements first would allow him and the electrical crew to start laying down the power system while the other houses were being rebuilt. Mike said he would talk to his crew leaders about AJ's idea while getting into his new car to head back to Camberley. Less than 10 minutes later, AJ got a text confirming that his suggestion was accepted and that he and the team could start work in 2 days. In other words, he had 2 days off. So, Amaya said, sounding thoughtful, "You're not working tomorrow?" "I'll be busy with something," AJ replied, quickly considering his finances. "But later." "That's fine, Mr. Smith," she said after a pause. "I need to go now. Call me when you arrive." "I will," he said. "Bye." She ended the call. He wondered why she had hung up so suddenly, but dismissed it and continued driving. As he drove, with the sun setting behind him, he realized he didn't need the hotel project in Sutton as much as he had needed the rewiring job at the bed and breakfast. Amaya Paolini was taking up his thoughts more than he had expected. His gaze fell on his left hand on the steering wheel, and he recalled the moment he understood that the ring he wore had never meant what he thought it did. The feeling of weight in his heart returned, but it was lighter now, still present but no longer a heavy burden. He was healing, as hard as that was to accept. When he pulled up outside her building, she was waiting, looking eagerly at each car that approached. Once again, he was struck by how odd it was that a woman like her, young, clever, lively, and stunning, was outside, full of excitement. For him. He stopped beside her and lowered the window. "Hi there, Miss Paolini." She smiled brightly. "Hello, Mr. Smith." "You are really stopping traffic." She blushed. He reached over and opened the passenger door for her. "Get in." She got into the car with her bag and leaned over to say hello to him. Horns started sounding behind them as he shifted the car into gear and drove down the road. "Nice car," she said, holding his hand. Her car was newer and fancier, but if there was any insincerity in her words, he couldn't tell. She was just happy for him. She sniffed. "Why does it smell like lavender?" He shrugged. "An old lady used to own it. I got some funny looks at the building site." She laughed and gently squeezed his hand. She smiled at him, and he enjoyed the softness of her skin. "You look amazing," he said, because she really did. Her dress was pretty, showing off her style. She wore her hair in a loose ponytail, and her makeup was simple with just a touch of eyeliner and lip gloss. She had just come from a shower and smelled like flowers and berries. She also wore her glasses. She blushed. "What's in the bag?" AJ asked, pointing to her duffel bag next to her small purse. Instead of answering, she pointed to a side street near a building with the Kellerson University crest. "Can you stop in there?" He looked at her curiously and slowed down. "Just pull in there and park?" she asked. "Please." He parked where she indicated and shifted the car into park. It was just past 8, and the sun had set. The administrative building was closed and dark. Amaya leaned over the console between them, her eyes bright with excitement. She took his hand and held it tightly. There was a moment of quiet filled with energy before she sat back in her seat. They sat in silence for a moment. Then she reached for her duffel bag and opened it, showing him what she had brought. 4 cups of ramen, bagels, and croissants in foil packs, 4 bottles of water, instant coffee, cream, tea, brown sugar, a pack of wipes, a small electric kettle, a pack of mints, and a new toothbrush. "My class tomorrow is at 2, she said, pausing. "I couldn't stop thinking about you. After yesterday, it just got worse." She smiled a little nervously. "Can we go to your room now? And just stay?" She adjusted her dress as he started the car. They drove through the suburbs in a calm silence, the mood between them warm and hopeful. Later, Amaya rested comfortably in his arms, wrapped in blankets as the room darkened with the night outside. They had spent hours talking, sharing stories, laughing at little memories, and enjoying each other's company. The connection between them was deep, not just in a physical way, but in a soulful sense, a closeness that felt like a comfortable silence. AJ glanced at her, her face softly lit by a lamp nearby. You really are something special, he said quietly. She smiled with her eyes still closed. You're pretty great too, Mr. Smith. They lay close together, holding hands, happy just to be nearby. It was a peaceful stillness that didn't need anything else. I was thinking, she said softly. Maybe I'll skip class tomorrow. He raised an eyebrow. You shouldn't. You've worked really hard. She sighed. I know. I just wish time would move a little slower. He smiled and gently squeezed her hand. We can't control time, but we have this moment. She nodded, keeping her eyes closed with a calm smile on her face. They stayed like that, hearts in sync, resting side by side as the night drifted them into a cozy sleep. She had looked at him thoughtfully and then spoke about her dream of standing on a balcony, looking out at the world beside someone who truly understood her. After speaking, she hesitated, unsure if she had revealed too much, but he smiled kindly, reassuring her with his warm presence. AJ quietly thought about how easily they had started to share personal thoughts. The way they could talk so openly astonished him. How had he found someone so genuine and open, especially after their first meeting? Later, he leaned against the headboard while she rested against him, her head comfortably on his chest as they chatted. The bond between them felt natural and easy. That was fun, she said with a grin. He raised an eyebrow. That might be an understatement. The last 16 hours had felt like a dream filled with closeness, laughter, and the comfort of being together. She hadn't wanted to leave his side except for brief moments, and he was happy to stay close. I love being with you, Mr. Smith, she had said quietly, looking up at him with eyes that made his heart feel light. She had come prepared. The bag she brought held everything they needed for the day: snacks, drinks, and other essentials. They didn't need to step out once. The little kettle became the star of their morning, boiling water for ramen and warming up the pastries perfectly. The mints she brought ensured they could talk and laugh without worry about morning breath. She stood by the window as the morning light came in, dressed comfortably, her hair loose, and her eyes still sleepy. Do you want cream in your coffee? She asked. AJ, still waking up, looked at her and smiled. Thanks. She poured tea for both of them while he prepared their breakfast. They enjoyed a few peaceful hours together, cuddled up, sharing stories and laughter, with the warm food and gentle tea adding to the comfort of the moment. Eventually, he looked at his phone. It's 12:27 p.m., he said softly. Your class is starting soon. She was lying comfortably against him. I probably shouldn't have shared my schedule with you. I won't let you be late for class, he said as he brushed her hair back. She lifted herself on one elbow and smiled. That's a tempting invitation. You need to keep your grades up, he said, pretending to be serious. She groaned playfully but got up reluctantly. He helped her get ready for the day, smoothing her skirt and fixing her collar. She playfully avoided some accessories, but he didn't insist. They headed toward the door together. Time to go, Miss Paolini, he said with a smile. She pouted. Can't we stay just a bit longer? Deborah saw them coming from the hallway of 103, walking hand in hand. Her eyes widened. John? It had been some time since she last saw him since the picnic, and he greeted her with a friendly smile. Hello, Deborah. Hello, she replied, a bit surprised. She glanced between him and the young woman with him, who gave a polite smile. The girl looked like she was between 18 and 22. A student? He made the introductions. Amia, this is Deborah Linden. Deborah, this is Amaya Paolini. It's nice to meet you, Amaya said. You're very pretty, Deborah said after a moment. Amia's smile became shy. Thank you. Deborah smiled back. How long have you two been together? 6 days, Amia replied proudly, glancing at John with admiration that made Deborah feel warmth in the air. He's fast, Deborah thought. The girl clearly had feelings for him. It was also clear she had been through a lot of emotions recently. Deborah felt a bit of guilt about how this all affected her. But she had been in this situation before and knew how to deal with it. I hear congratulations are in order, she said to John. Jason said you got a car. Is that it outside? Yes, he replied. And you're working with Bill Garrison, too. Yeah, over in Sutton. It looks like an interesting project, John said. I'm glad to hear that. She looked closely at him. You seem to be doing well. I owe that to you and Fred, John said. And Belly, too. She told you that room 103 is yours for as long as you need? Yes, John said, looking a bit shy. I really appreciate it. She playfully rolled her eyes. So you won't try to pay for extra nights anymore, right? John smiled. Yes, ma'am. She found herself smiling back. Then she noticed Amaya looking at her with interest, so she quickly reached into her bag and pulled out a closed food container. I made you something to eat, she said, glancing apologetically at Amaya before turning to John again. I'm sorry, I didn't know there were two of you. That's okay, John replied, while Amaya gave her an encouraging nod. He decided to take the container from her to avoid making her uncomfortable. I have to take Amaya back into town, John said, but I will be back soon. I'd really like your thoughts on something. This made her curious. All right, I'll be here. She watched them walk away, seeing Amaya giggle at something he said as they walked together. Deborah Linden let out a small laugh at herself. Calm down. As they were leaving the warehouse after giving him a friendly hug, Deborah asked if she could sit in the back for the ride back to Camberley. It was an unusual request, and it might have made the trip more awkward, but in this case he didn't mind it. In the end, it didn't really change how they talked. It was easy and relaxed, just like their conversation during the ride to the store when she sat in the front. Deborah had been raised by her aunt and uncle Don's parents, along with their 3 children after her mother passed away. Her father, Raymond, a truck driver, realized he couldn't take care of her and drive around the country at the same time. He thought she needed more stability and to go to school with other kids, so he left her with his sister in Camberley and kept working, sending money and planning his travels to make sure he saw her for a week each month and 2 weeks during Christmas. Sometimes he couldn't stay a full week, but he was there every month, called her 3 times a week, and made it to every birthday. She lived with the Thompsons for 9 years until her father decided to stop traveling and settled in Camberley as a truck mechanic to be near his daughter. Still, she spent almost every weekend with the Thompsons, helping her Aunt Anna clean and greet guests at Millie's. Then her father met a woman from Sutton, who was also widowed, and after a brief courtship, since she appreciated his attention, he proposed. That was when she met Pamela and Kate Hayes, and in an instant, they became like sisters to her. Soon after, Pamela became her best friend. Despite some misunderstandings and drama in their lives, her cousin Don, who was 2 years older, and Pamela eventually started dating. Everyone who saw them together, especially since Pamela often visited the bed and breakfast when Don was around, knew it was bound to happen. So, it was no surprise when they got together. Deborah moved on to work in hospitality and ended up managing a small hotel in the city. There she met Fred Linden, a young captain from the fire department who was attending a training course from a neighboring county. He stayed at her hotel. 6 months later, Fred transferred to a station just a quick 7-minute walk from her hotel. By the end of the year, he took the train with Deborah to ask her father for her hand in marriage. My dad passed away 7 years ago, she said softly. And Rose, Pamela's mom, followed 2 years later. I called her Ro-Mom. She was wonderful. She taught me how to cook. AJ smiled. Your dad sounds like someone I would admire. Deborah paused at that and placed her hand on his as a way to connect. Thank you. That is a lovely thing to say. He loved helping others, she continued. He even made a special trip for a customer who was unwell so he could get paid. It took him 2 weeks. You remind me of him, she added. AJ met her gaze. That is very kind of you to say. Thank you. You also remind me of Don's dad, Charlie, she said as she moved her hand away. And Fred. Aunt Anna adored Uncle Charlie, she added after a moment. They were really good people. Then they arrived at their destination, and Deborah looked at AJ in confusion. Where are we? What are we doing here? He grinned. I need your opinion. He had called ahead, and the manager was waiting for him. Deborah covered her mouth as she slowly realized what he needed her help with. You can't do this, she exclaimed. It's too much. You've already done enough. He shrugged. It's too late. It's already set. But, Deborah stuttered. AJ waited as she called Fred, stepping aside as she handed him the phone. Okay then, Fred said, his voice sounding serious. Are you trying to take advantage of my wife? AJ was taken aback. What? Fred laughed. I wish I could have seen your face just now. A wave of relief washed over AJ. You nearly gave me a heart attack. AJ explained that he had called Fred to ask if Deborah could be with him. Fred chuckled, sounding genuine. Sorry about that. I just wanted to thank you. You've made me think differently. AJ smiled. I hope it lasts. Maybe, John, Fred replied. Then he grew serious. Just know you don't have to do this, okay? It's your money. You earned it. I know it might sound strange, but you've already done enough for Don and Pam. AJ was quiet. You've never met them, Fred said. I don't need to, AJ replied. You're a smart person, Fred continued. You could start something for yourself with that money. No, AJ said firmly. Never. He returned the phone to Deborah. She ended the call and then hugged AJ, resting her head on his shoulder, quietly crying while the manager watched awkwardly. AJ felt uneasy about the hug, keeping one hand gently on her waist. It lasted longer than he thought it should, especially since she was another man's wife. Calm down, he told himself. When Deborah released him, she lowered her gaze and whispered thank you. She asked him for the budget and started to choose items. 13 older model flat-screen TVs, all the same type, removed from showrooms. Then she picked matching lamps, electric kettles, and small fridges that were taken from hotel updates. Despite her hesitations, he encouraged her to choose a large fridge, a chest freezer, a tabletop oven, and 2 microwaves for the kitchen. All the items were old, but AJ learned that this was a relative term. Each piece was newer than the appliances ruined by the lightning strike and was usually about 3 years old. Because they were overstock and refurbished items, they were all well below half price. He picked out the computers, tablets, and laptops only along with monitors and accessories, including a heavy mobile workstation, which was not likely to be moved much despite its name. He drew attention by paying for everything in cash. The pleased manager quickly offered to send a truck to follow them back to Camberley with their purchases and take away the damaged appliances for free. Tell me about you, John, Deborah said from the back seat once they were on the road. He met her gaze in the rearview mirror. I thought Fred told you everything. No. Deborah shook her head. I know the basics. I want to know more about you. How did you grow up? Where? Who are you? Since she already knew some tough stories, he felt okay sharing more. Their lives were somewhat similar. He had told Amaya part of his story last night, but she didn't know why he was in Camberley, and thankfully she didn't ask. So he shared with Deborah that his father passed away in a car accident when he was 7. His mother's brother, who was a master electrician, stepped in to help him and his brother, while his mom focused on earning her teaching certificate. Not long after, his mother got a teaching job offer in Dubai and took her 2 boys with her. Another job in Malaysia came up, and then they moved to Cairo before she returned to the UAE. This time, she was part of a teaching team for 20 children from Abu Dhabi's ruling family. Worried about her boys not settling down due to her constantly moving, she sent them to live with their Uncle Gary, who had married and had 3 kids. She made sure to fly back at the end of each term to spend the holidays with them. AJ, unlike his brother, was interested in his uncle's work. He would join Gary on jobs, learning and helping out, even if he was still young. By the time he finished high school, Gary trusted him enough to help with wiring houses. During this time, he found a passion for networking and programming. His mother saved up to support both boys in their college studies, but his uncle insisted they find ways to earn extra money for themselves while living at home, and his mom agreed. His brother chose to study medicine and soon showed the same restless spirit. He was currently working with an organization in Southeast Asia. Do you keep in touch with them? Yes. Does your brother know about what happened? Her husband had mentioned AJ's call to his mom in Qatar. AJ remembered the angry words James had said. Yes. What about Uncle Gary? He passed away 2 years ago, AJ said. I still miss him. I really cared about him. But he did smoke a lot. I'm sorry. Her eyes in the mirror showed deep sympathy. AJ shrugged. He hadn't told his hot-headed Aunt Petra yet. She would only get upset, and that wouldn't help anyone. Fred mentioned the money situation, Deborah said quietly. I don't understand why you... No, AJ interrupted, feeling rude but wanting to change the subject. That heavy feeling in his chest would return if he kept talking. You won't. She fell quiet, and AJ caught a glimpse of the hurt on her face in the mirror. I'm sorry, Deborah, but I've made up my mind. I really don't want to discuss it. It pains me. That's okay, Deborah replied softly. I'm sorry. AJ smiled at her. No, I apologize. Thank you for caring. To be continued.